All right, sir, you can go ahead, Ralph, please.
Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Global Youth Challenge 2022. It's my privilege and honor to be with you today. My name is Ralph DiFiore. I'm an instructor at the Arundel Academy in Leadership. We are welcoming 16 bright finalists from around the world who have been chosen amongst hundreds of entrants on this year's topic, which is AI and the future of mankind. I'd like to welcome our global audience to this wonderful event. I'd like to welcome our distinguished group of judges, whom I will be introducing shortly, and of course, the 16 finalists. Just a brief background on the Global Youth Challenge. Its origins, its genesis came about with the global pandemic, and we decided to give our young students an opportunity to address a serious global issue, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a resounding success, and from that, we decided to make this truly an international event, as we are an international school, and we decided to make this a global event. So in our second year, the subject that the students were given to address was global peace, world peace, which in view of current events in the world was a very prescient topic for them to choose. This year, as I mentioned, the topic is AI and the future of mankind, humankind. It's a very relevant, pertinent topic that I'm looking forward to hearing many great opinions and speeches on by our bright young people. Just to give you a little bit of a rundown on what the students have to do to make it to this point in the contest. Students are expected to submit a 300 to 500 word essay, plus a 1-minute speech, a video speech, and to accompany that, if they choose, some visual artwork. Today, the students that will be presenting have been chosen, as I said, from around the world. And it's really a great privilege to see our young people, as I often mention in our leadership class. These young people are the future leaders. They are the ones that we, as the older generation, will pass the baton to deal with very serious and threatening issues that our planet is facing. So in terms of the actual criterion for judging these students, I just thought I'd briefly run it down for you so our audience can understand how these students will be judged. They'll be given a speech of no more than 4 minutes in length. I'd like to remind all the speakers to adhere to this 4 minutes. Please do not exceed it if at all possible. It will adversely affect your final score. So the first thing that we'll be judging them on is their originality. How original is their presentation on AI? We know there have been a lot of luminaries such as Elon Musk, the late Stephen Hawking, and Ben Goertzel, who've waxed eloquent and spoken much about AI. So one of the things we're looking for is original thought, because it's still an evolving field, and original thought from you as a speaker will truly enhance your presentation. In other words, we don't just want regurgitation of Ben Goertzel's views or Elon Musk's views. Secondly, your speaking and communication style. How well do you speak? How well do you communicate your thoughts to the audience? That's very critical. Is your speech is it understood? Are your thoughts clear? Third, accuracy. We would like to try to avoid some wild speculation on your part, but unless it's supported by facts and logical thought, that's another matter. But the accuracy of what you're saying. And of course, the overall presentation itself, how it all fits together, how well you've done in presenting it, and so on. And lastly, of course, the ever-present danger of plagiarism, which I take our very bright and talented young people will not have resorted to. Now, in terms of the judging panel, it's my honor to introduce them to you here. Our first judge will be Professor Jim Slotta from the University of Toronto. Welcome, Professor Slotta, to our event, and thank you very much for coming. Secondly, Professor Leslie Wilton from York University. Professor Wilton, thank you very much as well. We really appreciate all of your time in this event. Then I'd like to present Ms. Kelly Schultz, Senior Development Officer at University of Waterloo. Welcome, Ms. Schultz, to this event. And then from Brock University, the Relationship Manager, Alicia Comenfol. Thank you very much for attending, Alicia, and for being one of the judges. Then I would like to introduce our very own Mr. George Vanderker. Thank you very much. George is the principal of Toronto Central Academy. Thank you very much, George, for being here. Then I would like to introduce Mr. Bo Chen. He is a professor at Huazhong University, Science and Technology. Thank you very much, Professor Chen, for attending this. And last but not least, Mr. Andrew Shao, who's in machine learning software. He's a machine learning software engineer at Qualcomm. I would also like to mention that at the end of the speech, these distinguished judges will be asking the students a question, two questions. Each judge will be asking a question to the students. In terms of the audience, you can participate in this as well. In the live streaming that is happening, there's a chat box where you will be given the opportunity to vote for your favorite speaker. And at the end of this presentation, we will be giving an award to the person who's received the most audience votes. So that's another thing. The audience can participate in this. As a late minute addition, but a very valuable addition to this year's Global Youth Challenge, handed to me just yesterday was a letter from the Right Honorable Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Justin Trudeau. And it's very brief, but I would like to share it with you very quickly here. I am pleased to extend my warmest greetings to everyone taking part in the Global Youth Challenge 2022, AI and the Future of Humankind, being held in Mississauga. As a founding member of the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, Canada supports the responsible development and use of AI in a manner consistent with human rights, fundamental freedoms, and democratic values. This competition provides young people from more than 20 countries with an opportunity to think creatively about the use of artificial intelligence in solving challenges facing our world. I would like to congratulate the participants and wish them the best of luck. I am certain that you will come away from this rewarding experience with a sense of accomplishment. It continues to be a difficult time for planning and hosting events. That is why I would like to thank the Global Youth Challenge and the many volunteers for their hard work and dedication in organizing this year's competition. On behalf of the Government of Canada, I offer my best wishes for an enjoyable event and for every future success. Sincerely, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau. Thank you very much, Mr. Trudeau. And I also would like to extend my best wishes to all the participants today. And speaking of people who helped make this happen, a special thank you to Ms. Christine Wong for all of her hard work and dedication. Christine, this event couldn't have happened without you. So we want to thank you for your tireless efforts in making this a reality. I would then now like to move on now to the next part of the presentation here. And it's my great honor and privilege at this time to to thank the various universities that are part of this wonderful event. First of all, from the very inception, the University of Waterloo and Brock were founding partners in the Global Youth Challenge. So thank you very much to both of you for your support from the get-go, from its genesis. Thank you. I would also like to thank the University of Toronto, of which the Arundel Academy is about a kilometer away as the crow flies. We are virtually next door to the University of Toronto Mississauga campus here at the Arundel campus. I would also like to thank York University for their support in the Global Youth Challenge. The Guangzhou University of Science and Technology in China. I may have pronounced that wrong. The Huazhong, I apologize if I've mispronounced it. Also, of course, our very own Arundel Academy and the Toronto Central Academy. And at this point, I would like to now turn the discussion over to our principal at Toronto Central Academy for some opening remarks. So it's my pleasure to introduce you, Mr. George Vanderker. George?
Mute to unmute, George.
George?
Christine, you might be able to also
Am I
unmute
unmuted now?
George.
Yes, I did.
But-
Thank you.
Okay.
There we go.
I am unmuted? Okay. So as you can see, this is going to be a very relaxed kind of casual kind of thing. After listening to all those rules, I'm sure some of the contestants are going to be very nervous. And I'm going to tell you, just relax, okay? Because this is a one-time thing. Things don't always go smoothly, and we'll just go with the flow. And so it's great to know that I'm speaking to people from all over the world, both youth and spectators and family. And you know, this is about artificial intelligence, and I want to assure everybody that there are no robots here. Everyone you see on the screen is actually a real person. And I don't know if there's a way to prove that, but you know, in the future, as you know, this could be the possibility. You could have people on the screen who are not real. And so this part of this is what this is all about. So, and again, congratulations to the 16 finalists. I've read all of your submissions, the written ones, and they're really good. And so I'm really looking forward to this. And the maturity you show and the insight will delight and surprise everyone who is watching. And lastly, for young people who are watching this competition, I hope you'll be really inspired and join us next year, because next year our theme is going to be global climate change. And you know, we started with COVID, and then we talked about world peace, and now artificial intelligence. And I think global climate change is also something that really concerns our youth. So anyway, thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you, George, for those wonderful words. And yes, I want to confirm what George says. I am not a robot or a zombie. I'm a real live person here. Okay. Well, it's my privilege at this point to introduce our first group of finalists. Okay. The groups were categorized by their names and by first names in alphabetical order. So we shall begin now with our first finalist in group number one. It's my honor and privilege to present our first student today, Miss Amy Zong. Welcome, Amy, and the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so hi, I am Amy Zhang from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So before I begin, I would like to say a huge thank you to everyone who made this contest possible. And I would like to thank GYC for providing me with this opportunity to learn, to share my thoughts. So first, let's begin with imagining this scenario where you live in a household with this AI housekeeper. This AI is extremely intelligent. It provides a variety of services. That would be so great, wouldn't it? So as you may have noticed, AI and a combination of robots have already seeped into our household setting. For instance, the robot vacuum cleaners that might exist in some of our homes. So to this technology, there still exists some flaws, but we should continue to improve for the better. So why is that so? Let me share with you my own experience. So personally, as described by my story, that where a robot artificial intelligence have caught robbery in action, was able to stop it while sending a recording of the thief to its owner. So this was based off my true personal story. Well, no, in my case, nothing was stolen as well. So now you may ask, even without the artificial intelligence, nothing would be stolen. So why should we have this artificial intelligence? So first of all, as I mentioned, it will be able to take a recording of the thief and send it to the police for further investigation to avoid further robbery in the future and to learn from this experience. And second of all, as a robot, artificial intelligence in a household setting, its main purpose is to provide household services such as sweeping the floor, cooking, cleaning the dishes, and performing all of those tasks all in once without any human interference. So I live in Canada, so we would have a thin layer of snow usually in winter, and it would be too redundant to use a snowblower. So typically it would be for up to me and my parents to shovel the snow and to lift it. Usually that will leave a back pain for a couple of days afterwards. So now, if I have an artificial intelligence, it will be able to perform the task with efficiency and with accuracy, while my parent and I can just lie on the couch with satisfaction and without needing to perform anything at all. So now let's move on to discussing some of the possible downsides to artificial intelligence. So it was argued that it lacks creativity, it can replace some jobs, as illustrated by the example of housekeeper, and most importantly, its violation to privacy. However, this issue already exists in our current world with social media. These social media companies, they go through and analyze our history data of our usage so that they can push similar posts and that we can stay on the platform longer for their benefits. Now, we cannot just stop social media once and for all. The same lies true for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is assigned for advancement in technology in the human world, and we cannot just stop it because of our fear for consequences and the possible concerns. On the contrary, it is because of these flaws, because of these concerns and the benefits that we continue to strive to improve this sector, that we support artificial intelligence, and that we learn more about it so that the companies can improve from our experience and develop a better technology, while we can understand the policy and the message behind, so we can protect ourselves when the companies are being dishonest. So on that note, I would like to end off by asking you to go to your web browser, click on search banner, and enter artificial intelligence. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amy, for that was a wonderful presentation. Excellent. I really enjoyed it. Now to ask you a couple of questions. Our first question will be addressed to you by Professor Leslie Wilton. Professor Wilton.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that very interesting presentation about AI and the future of humankind, focusing on AI housekeepers. I felt like you highlighted an important issue of the role of artificial intelligence and robots in protecting us, humans, and providing emotional support to humans. And you gave us two examples of AI robots, Charlie and Alex, in the written part. And Alex doesn't seem to be able to establish the same type of relationship as Charlie. So my question to you is, can you tell me more about your thoughts about AI robots being able to understand human emotional needs and being able to form emotional relationships with people?
Okay, thank you so much for your question. So when I was writing, I based off my thought on some, so there exists some, in China, there's such games made by Tencent that are usually, it's like a real chat box where the AI asks for a question and then you are given 3 options to respond. So I believe that with the advancement of technology, it will not be limited to the 3 options given. It can respond to many of these questions that you might have through the possible AI learning, and so that it can self-learn how to respond to various situations. And what's more is that I believe, since artificial intelligence, despite that they can possibly learn from the internet and etc., I don't believe that they can actually think. So really, these words that they are giving out are either pre-programmed or learned from their best ability from the internet. So, and it's typically pre-programmed. So what's good about that is that it will only provide the response that you will like to hear. So as I mentioned with the flaw about lacking creativity, it cannot possibly invent something new, but it will definitely say something that you would like to hear. So as I mentioned, so in my story, the first AI housekeeper was able to establish a relationship because they technically grew up together. So the bonding is strong. And then while the second housekeeper came in a long time later, so where they have already established their group of friends, they have established a relationship with others. So in this case, this is why they wouldn't really form such a strong bond with their AI housekeeper. And lastly, I believe that these AI housekeeper can sometimes act as a better way of emotional sanctuary, is because these AI housekeepers, they would be able to listen to all the rants and complaints you have in the whole wide world, while other humans also have their own sorrows and their own feelings and their downsides. So they might not want to hear all the complaints you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much. And I've been remiss here as the host here. I did mention that Mr. George Vanderker is the principal of Central Academy, but he is also a founder and executive director of the Global Youth Challenge. So I apologize, George, for my omission. And also a special welcome to Deborah Vieira, who is the principal of the Arundel Academy. I apologize, Ms. Vieira, for my omission there, but she's also been very integral in arranging this challenge and working with making sure that it goes well. So my apologies, Deborah, and welcome, Deborah, to the Global Youth Challenge. So at this point, Mr. George Vanderker will ask Amy a question.
George, sir? George, I cannot unmute you, but you need to unmute yourself. I can only ask you to unmute yourself.
Okay, here we go. I'm having trouble with AI, I think. Amy, that story about Charlie was really good. And so I'm going to ask you a fairly difficult question. The thing is that AI is more than just programming. It's more than just programming robots to meet needs, to do tasks. If it's truly intelligent, if it's true artificial intelligence, the robot itself should have needs that motivate it. In other words, what would make the robot want to do something? Human beings, of course, get hungry, thirsty, want love. So that's what motivates us. Can you think of anything that would motivate a AI-driven machine to do something?
Okay, so when we are talking about like AI with its relationship, we're like kind of supposing that AI is like almost another human being that has its own relationship, it thinks on its own. So this concept of how they're motivated can be also illustrated by many movies and books that exist in the current world. So usually these AIs, once they develop relationship and their own feelings, they can't really understand what humans are feeling. And this is something very new to them. So they would also want to have relationship and feel what it's like to be like a human, to cry, to laugh, to feel sorrow. So I guess really just understanding more about humans by interacting with them, by doing their in turn providing services and understanding of why perhaps some humans don't want to do these services will be a good motivation for these AIs to continue to work and provide service, because this is a huge opportunity for them to understand like the human feelings and the human emotions, what they're going through, and how is it like to be a human. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you, Amy, for those well thought out answers. Now it's my privilege to present to you the second speaker in group one, our second finalist in group one, Grace Liu. Welcome, Grace.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Okay. Can you imagine robots judging you, your mother, or your sister's performance and having a bias against them? What about an online chatbot being sexist? The linkage between these two scenarios is they're both connected to gender-biased AI. Thank you so much to the committee, judges, and all finalists for your amazing effort to make this happen. I'm Grace Tessillo from New York. My topic is understanding the impact of AI through the gender-digital divide and its indicators. From assisted online shopping to Face ID and much more, AI has been transforming our lives dramatically. Gender-biased AI not only has immense impacts on us, but also can contribute to setbacks in gender equality. After reading through hundreds of existing pieces of literature, I found a lack of research into this issue. I argue that examining AI's impact from the gender perspective should be one of the most important AI studies. I'd like to elaborate on 3 points: why, how, and what. First, why is this important? Research indicates that gender bias is generally found in AI datasets. Algorithms and devices can spread and worsen harmful gender stereotypes. This risks further marginalizing females in all economic, political, and social fields. Second, how could this happen? Though it sounds like AI machines have a mind of their own, data for training AI represents our behaviors as humans, so it reflects exactly this. In many cases, AI applications that we use are propagating gender norms. Third, what can be done? My proposal is to review the current status and impacts in assessing the gender digital divide. This will help design a series of measurable AI-related gender indicators as a way of evaluating positive and negative AI impacts. I'd like to mention that since 2021, I've been involved in a research project on the future impact of AI. Also, as the founder of Sharing to Empower and a member of 1,000 Girls, 1,000 Futures, which is a global program by the New York Academy of Sciences, I've disseminated my initial findings among different audiences and received praise globally. Actually, I was recently invited to TEDx Deer Park to talk about my experience. That'll take place on April 16th. So basically, I believe that my proposed research will help in better understanding AI's future and its impacts on humankind. This will further help establish a whole new society view and map the broader goals we seek in the future of AI gender equality. Now, I'm standing here today because I'd like to share my voice so that more young people can join me to advocate for this. I remember that Michelle Obama said, "There's power in allowing yourself to be known and heard, in using your authentic voice." So I'd like to ask our audience to advocate for AI gender equality, even by doing something small, like raising your voice, supporting one another, or getting involved in our local community. Finally, through this challenge, I've learned so much. Most importantly, we're all here together to express our views and suggest creative solutions regarding AI and its future impact for human beings. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Grace. That was a wonderful presentation. At this time, your first question will be addressed to you by Ms. Kelly Schultz. The floor is yours, Kelly.
Good morning. Thank you. That was a fantastic presentation, Grace. Well done.
Thank you so much.
I was very impressed by your passion and commitment to this particular lens on AI. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, how did this become a passion for you? You're involved extracurricular in the gender equity through the AI, and I just wanted to know how this became a personal passion for you.
Thank you so much. That's a great question. Well, my passion for gender issues really started 3 years ago. I started doing research on the gender perspective of fencing issues since I started fencing class like 3 years ago. And my research ended up being presented at multiple global conferences, which really gave me the confidence and even greater interest in gender issues. So as a follow-up to this, since February 2021, like I mentioned in my presentation, I've been involved in a research project on the future scenarios and impact of AI. So this really triggered my interest and passion to study this issue of understanding the impact of AI through the gender digital divide and its indicators. Essentially, I'd say that my previous research experience into the topics of gender and AI issues really inspired me to write this essay and really triggered my passion for researching these issues. So thank you so much for your question.
Thank you. And thank you for the great work you're doing in this space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I share that feeling. Thank you. And our second question for Ms. Liu will be from Professor Bo Chen. Professor Chen, the floor is yours.
I think it's a great presentation. Sounds like you've well prepared for the gender equality or inequality research in AI. So I'm just wondering, could you please elaborate one possible or one efficient method that can help us to reduce the gender inequality in AI?
Thank you so much for your question, Professor. I think that's an awesome question. Well, like I mentioned in my presentation, I believe that really researching and establishing frameworks or indicators for the gender digital divide and the impacts of AI is really, really important in research because it helps us, like as a whole, everyone globally, to plan out future actions that we can take in solving this issue. So I think an example of such an indicator could be the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I think those are amazing indicators, like the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sure that the United Nations and its agencies have been doing related research on the digital divide. So yeah, thank you so much for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Okay, well, thank you once again, Grace, for that wonderful presentation. It's now my honor to present the third finalist in Group 1. I'd like to present now Fatima Bakhtiari. Welcome, Fatima, and we look forward to hearing your presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Fatima, and I'm a grade 8 student at Ahl Bayt Islamic School, Ottawa, Canada. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to give a big thank you to everyone who has worked hard to make this contest possible and to everyone who has helped me throughout this process. I joined this year's Global Youth Challenge because it was a great opportunity for me to see other people's perspective about AI and to show my opinion through something I enjoy, which is art. Throughout this journey, I learned what AI really is and what the pros and cons are, so thank you GYC for that. How would you feel if AI would advance to the maximum point? Imagine walking around through a city and all you can see in the supermarkets are cashiers as robots, and talking to humans as a normal human being would do. Although AI might be useful, it can also be very dangerous. But it all really depends on the person and the idea behind it. AI has many benefits for us humans. For example, AI can provide relief by doing various tasks and understand and learn what assignments are and read them as many times as a human wants. For example, if a doctor needs to perform a surgery in another country and they need to travel to a faraway country, they wouldn't need to travel at all. They would do it through AI, through a robot and a controller. AI can be also very, very dangerous. For example, imagine a car that is taught only limited things: to stop at a green sign, to go at a green sign, stop at a red sign, go faster, go slower. But what if it's not taught to stop at a train track? And what if at that moment a train is passing by as a high speed? And what if they collide? Well, both the vehicles and humans are injured, and that is one dangerous thing that could happen. In my drawing, I represented two sides, one green and one red. Although you cannot see it, you've seen it before. There are also two robots and two controllers. The controllers have, both of them have commands on them that the robots are doing. On the left side, we can see that the green robot is helping a citizen flee from the dark and polluted world, while the other side, the red robot, is controlling what used to be a human. Although many people blame AI for the things that happen, it's not truly AI's fault. There's always a person or idea behind it. It's the person behind it, the person who taught it, the person who trained it, the person who is watching over it. So for example, if a car is driving by itself and the people inside are not paying attention to what is happening outside the car, and if a car crash happens, it's not the car's fault, it's the person who was supposed to be driving. Because the car does not have a mind of itself like us, we do. We have a mind, we think that like, oh, well, a car is coming, and if it hits us, well, we're going to get injured. But the car does not know that. It only follows the instructions that is assigned to it. So next time something happens because of AI, don't blame the technology. Blame the person who was supposed to be watching it, because they probably are not doing a great job at it. What should be done? AI scientists and engineers should further research, study on impact, conduct a variety of multiple scenarios before public application, and only then will AI's positive impact be enhanced. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatima. That was wonderful for that wonderful presentation. At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Alicia Kumfol to ask you a question. Go ahead, Alicia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fatima. That was a wonderful presentation. And I will have to say, I absolutely loved your art piece. I think it really resonates well with the theme, your use of colors, the symbols with the check mark and the X. And I think it really does capture the essence of the mastermind behind it. And I love the way that you put it as like a puppeteer. So really beautiful work. I guess in that lens, recognizing the pros and cons of artificial intelligence and how you interpret it in this art piece, how would you use AI in art?
Thank you, Professor. Well, personally, I think AI has a lot of impacts in our lives. And AI could be the computer right now, which we are having the Zoom call on. For example, if you want to take, examples of a drawing, or you don't know how to learn drawing, you can definitely search on AI and find the different ways of drawings. For example, at the beginning of my drawing, I did not know how to draw at all. So at some point, I started researching more and more, and I started watching videos, getting teachers to help me with it. And to be honest, the AI really helped me with being able to draw. So that could be one way.
Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you for that great question and that wonderful response, Fatima. Now it's my honor to present the fourth finalist in the Group A. It is my privilege
I'm sorry, Ralph, may I interrupt you for just a moment, please?
Yes,
we have another judge to ask a question, please.
Oh, yes, my bad. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
My bad. It's my bad. Okay, so yes, there's a second question for you, Fatima, and that is Mr. Andrew Shao. My apologies, Andrew.
No worries. Hello, I really like your artwork, and I think it clearly conveys the idea you were presenting. So I'm just wondering, can you elaborate more on what you think about the future of the AI or robot will be? So do you think they will one day have their own thoughts and emotions, and they can solve problems autonomously, or do you think they will always be somehow controlled by the humans?
Thank you for that awesome question. As I said in my presentation, to be honest, it really depends on the person and the idea behind it. For example, if we want to design AI to have its own mind, like what we do in the future, it definitely could happen. But it all really depends on that person and the idea. Thank you.
Okay,
great.
Thank you. Great question and great answer. Okay, now our final finalist in Group A. It's my privilege to present to you Helena Shui.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me good?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Helena Shui, and I'm a grade 12 student residing in Ontario. I'll be taking just a few minutes of your time today to look at both the benefits and harms of AI that poses towards humanity through a business perspective. Now, as I begin, I actually want to share one of my own experiences regarding the use of AI in retail businesses. You see, a while back, I visited a sushi place, and although the food was delicious, what I'd like to focus on was this particular restaurant's use of AI, and more specifically, robots. A cat-themed robot named the Bellabot is an indoor delivery robot that features multimodal interactions, integrating visual, tactile, and auditory senses. Regarding Bellabot's automation as it brought me my food, I was surprised to see how much AI has evolved in the past few years to now hold its own place in our typical day-to-day environments and businesses. Now, regardless of its nature, this automation and technology that we see today are all thanks to the innovation and developments by, of course, artificial intelligence. An advancement of our new technological age, AI has both brought forth a wide breadth of gratifying responses towards our society, while simultaneously can be argued towards various concerns. Now, going into more detail with the benefits of AI to humanity, to start off, AI has significantly impacted the efficiency that businesses and, most importantly, their employees are able to work at. AI helps to increase employee productivity through the use of different softwares and applications, such as virtual planners or smart voice automated devices. The use of AI itself can also enable businesses to undergo effective automation processes that assign repetitive manual tasks towards machine-based AI, thus helping the business to save both time and money. Speaking of retail and service businesses, whenever a customer is involved, AI can also be beneficial in this case as well, such as providing 24-hour support for customers through the integration of AI-based chat boxes that allows for shorter response times and improved customer interactions. And for our last advantage, another involvement of AI we're seeing more often today is the use of AI for data analysis, whether it be gathering and processing data to track user engagement, such as through social media analytics, or interpreting data for various marketing strategies. Each supports the workers towards ensuring their jobs can be performed more conveniently, efficiently, and effectively. Now, of course, in terms of the concerns that AI brings forth to businesses, there are certain aspects that can be considered as harmful towards society and also raises potential ethical concerns. A great disadvantage of this nature is the increased dependency on AI that poses questions of whether businesses in our society can function in the way that we are now used to without the assistance of AI. As we build up this dependency, this means that we center many business operations around AI and its technologies. And so if there are potential malfunctions, or of course, the cliched robots decide to take over the world, it would certainly make this consequence hard to deal with. Regarding a similar concern, there is also another factor of AI and the automation process impacting employment opportunities. Many people in society today are worried about threats of AI causing us to lose jobs, such as inventory and repetitive industrial roles, resulting in fears of job security as an increasing risk towards impact of AI in businesses today. Ultimately, at this point in our technological advancement, it may very well be too early to understand the significant effects of AI on businesses as new progress is made every single day. In the end, it may be beneficial to integrate AI into businesses as a tool to support humanity, leaving me with a final request for you, lovely viewers, to take a moment the next time you're working at a job or perhaps shopping at a retail store and to reflect on the impact of AI on this business. And with that note, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Helena, for that wonderful presentation. At this time, Professor Slaughter will be asking you a question.
Thank you.
Hi, Helena. Thank you so much. This was interesting and broad, right? You're talking about all business. And I'm looking at the graph that you included in your essay, and you spoke to this question a little bit just now, because I'm finding these presentations, they go beyond what you submitted, which is, it's helpful, but it makes us have to change our questions a little bit as we go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm seeing here in this list a couple of different categories of things represented. Most of the items seem to me related to automation and efficiency, improving internal and external processes, optimizing, right? That's business getting better at doing what it does, bringing you sushi. They were bringing you sushi before, right?
Yeah.
But a couple of them are about new products and new markets. And in particular, I think since the pandemic started, for sure, we're entering a new normal of work and commerce. And I want to ask you what you think some of the exciting new directions that AI can enable. What do you think some of those are? And maybe some of the specific concerns within those directions. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about what might be, what new spaces might be opening up.
Of course, thank you for that question. Well, in terms of the different aspects towards kind of the whole evolution we're seeing today, as we know, even from like the advancements, 10, 20 years ago, they're very different from what we see now with all of kind of these different developments, these ventures from a lot of different universities and such. They're all able to kind of provide us, of course, the main goal is to support humans, support us with their jobs, with their careers, education, all of that. But in terms of something I've noticed recently, actually, just because of the pandemic, was like simple mundane tasks that we don't really think about too often. For example, when I visited like the grocery store, there's these smart self-checkouts. There's these new tracking sensors that are AI automated to make sure that we're all social distancing. All of these different factors are able to help and support our lives. But there is also kind of that, it's like a double-sided sword where AI might eventually, develop their own kind of their own humanity, their own mindsets that they're able to kind of rebel against what we necessarily give them. And that all kind of also factors in towards the ethical and morality of using AI in businesses, as well as the whole aspect of how we're able to use these inventions, use these innovative ideas to kind of make sure that we're still staying true to ourselves and our own abilities, but we're able to use them to kind of help us in the future, which at the end of the day is also something that I'm kind of looking into. I'm interested to see where it takes all of us. But at this point in time, kind of, it's still a developing kind of idea, developing kind of industry that we're not too sure of. But right now we can see certain improvements that do help our daily lives.
Thank you. Okay. Keep your eye on the metaverse too.
Metaverse, yes, I know. That's something I wanted to mention too.
Yeah,
I have experiences with that.
Great question, Professor, and great answer. And our final question for our final finalist in Group A, Mr. George Vanderker.
Oh, I think you might be muted.
You're muted, George. Yes. Let's try that again. Yep, we hear you now. You're okay now, George.
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. Anyway, so these are hard questions to answer sometimes in a short time. So I'm going to follow up on Professor Slaughter's love for sushi. And so I'm wondering if you see anything negative about AI being involved in the delivery of food. Can you think of a negative thing? And I'm not talking about efficiency, but I'm talking about, is there something societally negative about AI deciding to deliver sushi to your house?
Okay, so in terms of delivery services, they're like, even when you said that question, I kind of was thinking in my mind, like I know in Toronto, they have those like robots on carts that kind of serve the whole purpose of delivering food to your houses, right? So in terms of that, things that I've even seen online, there are concerns of, in terms of if you're transportation wise, if the delivery kind of the whole, there are certain challenges for AI. They can't think like we do. They can't make these kind of fast-paced decisions or work in kind of these environments that require you to kind of be quick on your feet. And so in that term, there is kind of these constraints that don't allow AI to kind of function and respond the way that we can, such as, for example, the transportation for delivering these food items. On the road, there's a lot of different circumstances. There's something that you can't exactly program and plan beforehand. There's a lot of things that you got to be quick on your feet with that AI, unfortunately, might just not have the abilities to do right now, as well as just general constraints of like, in terms of the food industries, if there is like AI that's actually preparing our food, there might be allergens or there might be other kind of like food regulations that they can't live up to the potential that humans like you and I can kind of ensure within the workplace. So those are all different factors that might potentially affect kind of these negative disadvantages for AI in kind of the food industry, as well as transportation for delivery services. But I just like to note that like what I saw, the cat robot kind of delivering my food, it just really made me reflect and think about how like the AI is prominent in our societies today, but in little ways that you don't really, like, of course, a human can deliver it, but it's kind of that unique little aspect that makes it special with the AI.
Thank you, Helena. Of course, I don't want AI to be like my mother, deciding what I should eat and what I should not eat.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, George, for the question, and Helena for your answers. I would just like to reiterate to the contestants that please let's all adhere to the time constraints, both in our presentations and our responses. At this time, it's my privilege to introduce to you the founder and executive director of the Global Youth Challenge, a man whose tireless efforts have made this all possible. So at this point, I would like to introduce Mr. Paul Pu and allow him to say a few words to you. Welcome, Paul, and thank you for this wonderful youth challenge that you've created and for giving the students the opportunities to present their ideas on these global issues. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all judges. Spend your valuable time with us to support GYC, to support youth, to support youth leadership development. GYC is a platform for youth to get together to think about the critical issues in the world. So we had, first year's COVID-19, second year World Peace. This is AI and the human future. Next year we're going to have climate change and humanity. So unfortunately, last February we have World Peace competition. So unfortunately, this year the war launched. So it means in the world, we have more and more challenge. We face more and more challenge. So youth leadership as a world belong to next generation, belong to youth. So hopefully with GYC, we get more and more support and we have more and more people to participate. Thank you all judges for your valuable time to support us.
Thank you, Paul, for those wonderful words. And I would reiterate what you said, and I want to thank you because I think it's so essential that we do have our young people who are the future leaders preparing themselves as best as possible. And it's our duty to help them address these monumental issues that the world faces. So thank you very much for this, for creating this, Paul. And I think it's going to get bigger and better as time goes on. At this time, I want to make a special mention to our youngest contestant. It's just remarkable that these young people can come up with such wonderful ideas and contribute so much. And at this time, she's only 11 years old, and she participated. She's not one of the finalists, but I'm sure in the future she will be. At this time, she's going to just speak to you briefly. There she is. At this time, if she's available, I'd like her to address you for a short time, for a minute or two. It's my privilege to congratulate you, Wuling Zhuo, for your tremendous efforts at your tender young age. I'm so impressed, Wuling. That is just so amazing. You're a remarkable young lady, and I know that with people like you, the world has a bright future. So at this time, would you like to say a few words to our audience?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Yes.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm Wuling. I'm from China, and I'm 11 years old. First of all, it's an honor to be here with so many great players, and the round of 16 is a role model for me going forward. Thank you, GYC, so much for giving me this opportunity. Last year, I participated in GYC for the first time, and I thought I would be rejected because of my age. Fortunately, I passed and I got a good score in the top 25%, which I didn't expect. I had been selected to participate in the 8-week Global Youth Leadership course. Each week, we explored 2 laws of growth and how we can apply them to our daily lives. Additionally, we explored our own personal blocks to growth and success and find ways to overcome our challenges in order to become the best versions of ourselves and achieve success in all areas of our lives. We come our shell, think critically, exercise, and academically. From the course, we knew when we encounter failures or setbacks in our lives, we can shift our perspective to there is a solution to every problem. We can treat our failures as learning opportunities and use them to become stronger, better versions of ourselves. That's all. Thanks for listening.
And thank you, Eileen, for that. Your wonderful thoughts. And once again, I want to say congratulations at such a young age to be so good at what you're doing and presenting.
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Okay, can the rest of you hear me? Yes, okay. Thank you, Wooleen. Sorry, we might have a technical glitch with Wooleen. At this point, I would like to introduce our second group of finalists, group 2, okay? So to start us off with our second group of finalists, I present to you Jimin So. Welcome.
Hi. Oh no, I'm really nervous.
Welcome. Don't be nervous. Relax.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll take the speech. Good morning and evening to everyone. I am Jimin So, and I'm a grade 9 student who currently studies in Oakville, Canada. I am one of the finalists in this competition, and I would like to thank all the judges for giving me a chance to speak about my opinion in GYC. And I have always wanted to create a collage that speaks strongly about my words, and GYC has given me a chance, so thank you so much. Today, I'll be talking about my lens of how AI can affect specifically the people who have disabilities. When I first got this topic and when I first was creating this artwork, I first thought of how this will affect these kinds of people. We always talk about the majority, but not the minor people, since most think it is vital to change and create the main things. However, let's go inside the shoes of these people. What would they feel about the huge transition of AIs? How would this affect them? Benefiting the majority is somewhat correct, since making a change in most people can give further challenges and differences. However, it does not mean we shouldn't give a chance for the minorities to change. So I wanted to talk about a few things in my art project that could also benefit the left-handed. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was automatic cars, and so here is my collage. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's right here, I think. And auto cars is a car with an AI that can also detect upcoming obstacles and avoid them. However, we could also use this on disabled people's daily lives. Blind people can use something that is called a smart cane, which is a walking stick that has a device with an AI attached on it. Of course, there could be alternatives such as having a guide dog or a pedestrian walking beside, but there are consequences to that. Guide dogs have a relatively shorter amount of lives than most dogs because of the amount of stress they get, and pedestrians usually get distracted by many things because they have emotions. But having an AI is very long lasting, and it is better than most alternatives since it can detect the smallest objects that people may not be able to see. Although there are various ways that this can help people, there are always consequences and oppositions. People could be lonely while walking, and unlike dogs and humans, the AIs do not have emotions. So if the person only uses a smart cane, it is likely that the person will be lonely since they cannot emotionally approach to a robot. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is the algorithm, which is actually placed right here. And an algorithm can be used in recommending or showing things that might be related to what people are searching up on the internet. With the help of algorithms, people can establish a free online learning app for sign languages for the people who can't hear. Language apps can also help keep track of scores and progresses that people are making. And instead of having a hard time trying to find answers to questions, guidance can be shown right away arranged by algorithms. And it is not only that they could learn sign languages, disabled people still could learn other languages such as French, English, Spanish, Korean, etc. However, there are not only the benefits. Algorithms might not be able to find all the correct answers to every single question, and this often leads to confusion in people's education. All in all, helping many people with the use of AI is great, but we should never forget the few. Small ways can give huge differences, like how the small cane detects obstacles, like how the smart cane detects obstacles, just like the automatic cars, and like how language apps can even help the people who can't hear or speak. Using the AI is beneficial to everyone, and it also gives someone a chance to enhance further. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jimin, for that wonderful presentation. At this time, Professor Chen will ask you a question.
Oh, yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for your presentation. And I'm very interested in your, picture here, I saw quite a lot of keywords, in terms of AI. I'm just wondering, do you have any other kind of keywords related to AI that you haven't presented here on your picture?
Wait, sorry, I really couldn't hear. Oh, sorry, because of the technology problems. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So you listed many interesting keywords on your painting, right? On your picture. So I'm just wondering, can you elaborate one more in addition to those keywords that you have already presented?
Actually, there are a lot of examples that I can list, but one is the AlphaGo, which is an AI with deep learning that can challenge the Go players to think of a way to win the game. But we could also use this with people with disabilities, especially the one that have the mental illness. And for example, with the deep learning, actually, wait, sorry, I'll reset. I'll say that again. Sorry. There is another example that I could put on the algorithms, which is Moxie the robot. It is also based on an algorithm-based AI learning robot, and it helps support kids emotionally and socially by play-based learning and engaging content. And I also believe that helps kids with disabilities around the age of mine, which is 13 to 14 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you for that answer. And now your final question will be presented to you by Ms. Kelly Schultz.
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. You're muted.
There we go. Great job on your presentation. Thank you. I appreciate your perspective of AI and using that to help with persons with disabilities. So thank you for that. I wanted to ask you if you can see a downside to using AI for helping people with disabilities. Is there any negative consequences that you can see coming out of that?
First of all, this is the most general thing, but it really takes a lot of time for the AI to be perfect, since there could be accidents that come randomly in some, for example, like the autocars. Autocars can make huge accidents if the person doesn't pay attention, and also if the code of the AIs can sometimes not function. So time is one of the big things that I might say. And also, sorry, okay, I'll just think of something. And also, another thing that I wanted to talk about is money, since many people, this doesn't include people with disabilities, but it also includes everyone. The people who are poor might not be able to buy these kinds of AI that can also save their lives, but the rich people, if the rich people keep buying these kinds of AIs, it will eventually lead to rich people getting even richer because of the advancement of technology. And the poor people would be even poorer because they won't have a chance to they won't have the opportunity to engage and experience with this kind of AIs and robots. That is all.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great question and great answer. Our next finalist is my pleasure to present to you. Our next finalist, Samantha Zong. Welcome, Samantha.
Oh, hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Jingyi Zhang. I am a 14-year-old junior high school student in Beijing, China. So first of all, I would like to thank all the judges and teachers from GYC to give me this opportunity to share my idea about AI, and it is my honor to be here. It is well known that AI plays a more critical role in various fields and music. I think the music robot with AI can be improved and make the music arrangement with the styles and express its mood in it when it senses the surrounding environment in the future. It may cause electrical melody with classical music to show the fun of mixing the ordinary things and new things in a concert. Alternatively, it will arrange the country music with pop style in a vocal concert to tell the audiences its fantastic story's lively mood. For example, when a music robot comes to a wedding, it will be surrounded by a couple's love and then make an arrangement about love to celebrate their marriage. Its arrangement style will become a popular trend in the music field. Indeed, it is based on the vital foundation of contemporary music and the rapid development of high tech. On the other side, we should not rely too much on this robot. Over-application will limit our arrangers' creativity, and we can't stop thinking and creating all the time. As long as we apply it reasonably, we can play its most fantastic role. I think there's some ways for us to make the automatic arrangement by the robot come true. First of all, we need to make many familiar songs in digitization and collect them to set up a database to ensure that the robot can read and scan very fluently. Secondly, we need to study a chip for music. Then we should assemble the chip and the robot, so the robot will help us to transform and combine these melodies in a surrounded environment. Then a new melodic arrangement is obtained. At last, the robot will make the structure and the familiar song to show the layered and complex emotion or mood. Finally, there is a new composition which is made by the robot. That is all what I want to express about how the music robot improved to make the music arrangement. In our real life, people may learn something about the music robot to promote the social development of AI music. Yeah, for example, there is a music robot named Teltronico from Italy in our real life. It has 19 fingers and can play the piano in many songs by itself to show its incredible musical ability. So there are some kinds of music robots are indeed used right now. I hope you guys will also learn something about the actual music robot and our fantastic technologies of AI. I also hope that my idea on AI will become true in the future. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Samantha, for that excellent presentation. Your first question will be addressed to you by Professor Wilton.
Thank you very much for that very interesting presentation. And I teach a graduate course at the University of Toronto about AI in education, and we examine AI-supported applications that are being used in an education for an education purpose. And whenever someone highlights a music application, it's always very interesting to look at the thinking around AI being involved with music creation and production and things like that. So I really appreciate that you brought this to the competition today. And so you mentioned some of the benefits of AI composed or arranged music, but you also say we shouldn't rely too much on these AI created compositions. So I was hoping you would share a little bit more about your thoughts about what a reasonable level of focus on AI music might be, and how do we ensure there's a balance between AI related music and human created music?
Okay, thank you for asking. So first of all, I think there's some kinds of, some people's complex emotion that the music robot can hardly express it correctly. And it will be a long distance for AI music to make this progress. And I think the music robots will impress the musicians and the arrangers to make their composition. And it may be a helpful tool for them and not instead of them. So I think it will be really helpful and fantastic. AI robot will help us to make something, but we are not going to rely it. It's because it's a kind of the music robot couldn't do anything for music, so there's people to also to do it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the great question. Thank you. And answer. And your second question will be presented to you by Mr. Andrew Shao.
Hello, that was a very interesting presentation, and I really like your idea of using AI technology to improve music arrangement. And also, I believe the potential solution you proposed was actually the concept of machine learning. And so I'm just wondering, in your opinion, could you elaborate more on, do you think in the future people will prefer the music produced by the robot more, or still prefer the music produced by the human musicians?
Yeah, I think both of them are, because I think this kinds of conversation for the AI that the AI music robot did will enrich people's spiritual life, and it will also help the musicians to create their conversation, and also will to enrich the music field. And there's I mentioned that there's some people's complex emotion that AI robot can hardly express it, and there are both obtained that they will both of them will be really useful for in the music field. And I think we can promote the social development of music robot, and also make something, and also influence the musicians in our people.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you for the great question and answer. Our seventh finalist in group 2 now. I'd like to present to you, it's my honor and privilege to present to you, Mr. Kevin Gu.
Hey, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. So hi everyone, my name is Kevin. I'm a grade 11 IB student in the GTA, and I'm very happy to be here today to share my thoughts about AI, which has become such an invaluable part in our society, such as like in Siri or in search engines. Just before I start, I want to thank everyone who's been part of the GYC for their work in making such an interesting competition, as I've been able to learn so much from all the other mentors and fellow competitors as well about the world of AI and its many implications. So thank you for that. As many of us know, businesses and private companies have been at the forefront of the development of AI, and they've brought incredible technological achievements such as social media and self-driving cars. But they also have the power to use AI in almost any way they see fit, so both good and bad. With current legislation, businesses have the ability to choose between using AI to the benefit of us all, or they could just benefit the wealthy only. I believe that AI, because of that, it would become a potential social issue that many people will want to talk about, and just like try to make sure that we're using it in the right way. And to do that, I believe that art is actually a very powerful medium that people can use to spark social change in all of its forms. I was inspired by protesters who often use posters and art to make a statement and have people think about the current system and how it could change for the better, in addition to other more traditional artists who use art as a form of communication to project their ideas. And therefore, I created the artwork, which I submitted. Hopefully you can see that a little bit. Yeah, and that's how I want to present my ideas, in a way to use art as a way for social change. In my artwork, I presented both the dystopia and a utopia. On the dystopian side, I used darker colors, and I tried to show like a broken world that I wanted to represent, that was controlled by like maybe like a super conglomerate where AI was taking over everyone's jobs. And because of that, employers weren't getting their rightful pay and rightful benefits. And then on the utopia side, we have the side where AI can be used for the benefit of us all, and it could streamline our daily lives, such as how we use, many of us use Google, which helps us get information that we want. We can use Siri or even like Google Home to control our houses in a way that makes our lives much more efficient. So there are so many different ways that companies can use AI to either help us in the case of these helpful like Siri, these assistants, as well as how they can also use it for bad, such as in social media with echo chambers, because of the way that social media and the AI that's used there is set up. And that's why I chose to show both a dystopia and a utopia in my artwork. So basically, like, the future of mankind it depends on how companies decide to use AI, and we must pay attention to how they use it, so that we can, just as Justin Trudeau said in his supporting letter to the GYC, we need to make sure that we're keeping the use of AI in a beneficial way, so that we can help more people rather than let the wealthy take control of us all. And that's how we can determine the future of humankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Excellent. Well done. Your first question will be presented to you by Professor Slotta.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
I was really affected by your art. I thought, it's digital art, and it's a genre that your generation has really embraced, and I really appreciate your comments about the role of that art in the social movements. That is another prominent feature of your generation. I think we skipped a couple generations in terms of those kind of protests and movements, and they're back, which is neat to see. So thank you for representing these ideas in terms of the artwork. It really is effective. I want to ask you a question. I thought, so I get it, but I want you to expand on your argument a little bit. So mainly I heard worries about, the dystopia, the rise of mega companies, and maybe the toxic echo chambers of social media. In the AI, and you just addressed this a little bit, but I wonder if you could expand a little bit more in terms of the city of light, okay?
Oh, yeah.
I'm imagining 40 million people in Shanghai, China, or 10 million people here in Toronto in the year 2050. What's AI doing for all these people, right? So if the internet and the mobile smartphones were the sort of big new miracle technologies that transformed our society over the last 30 years, and they have, what will be the big new things? I mean, you mentioned smart homes, and that's an interesting one. What else can you say about this city of light? What are the things that AI are doing for people?
So I feel like the main way that AI can help us all is just through efficiency. Like as with the smart homes, we can use them. If in the future we can use AI on a larger scale, we can use AI, like I think right now they're even using like machine learning, at least, to control the electrical grid, to balance things out. Maybe in the future, if we, like, with climate change, there's a lot more solar panels, and people are they can try and make money by installing solar panels and selling electricity that way. Maybe we can use AI to, like, we can try and make sure that people who have a lot of sunlight can export their energy to places where they don't have a lot of sunlight. They need the clean energy, so that we can get off of, like, fossil fuels. And that's one way we can help our society advance into a more utopia-like situation. There's many other ways, like just daily life. We can use AI to, I think, as some people mentioned, like assistants. We can use them to help if it develops in a way that we can use it to help maybe the elderly get around, since the elderly often don't drive cars, especially in North America where public transit isn't great. We can use, like, self-driving cars to get people around. We can use AI to help, even with, like, shipping. If you need something, we can use AI to be like, oh, this person might need it. Let's get X object, like maybe some medication, near their house. So maybe, like, if their medication is due in a week, so they don't have to wait like maybe 2 months for a prescription to fill. And that's just another way that we can use AI to help our society.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Professor, for your question. And your second question will be addressed to you by Alicia Krumfall.
Hi, Kevin. Great presentation. You know, you have a great presence, and really enjoyed your art piece as well. I think it's abstract, but it still speaks a lot of volumes. And it's true to say that a picture can say 1,000 words or more. So I guess sort of on the lines of Professor Slaughter, I mean, I guess in your own personal opinion, would you say AI has been more beneficial or more detrimental to society?
I feel like if you're saying like just overall, I feel like it still has to be beneficial. Like obviously there are the downsides, like many people point to social media as like the first thing, like, oh, look at that. Like the echo chambers, especially how people such as maybe like the anti-vax movement can use platforms like Facebook to like, if they're interested in seeing more about something, Facebook will push more things that they're interested in. So like with the anti-vax movement, obviously, like if you're searching for that, you're going to get more of it and you're going to get into the echo chamber. And that's like one of the main downsides of AI. But I feel like there's so much that AI has done for us already, like search engines. 30 years ago, I know that people, or at least my parents always say that when they were in school, like they had to flip through textbooks to find information. It was so hard to get world news. Like nowadays with like the internet, social media helps a bit with this, but also with like search engines, it's so easy to get information and to know what's going on and how you can help our world that AI has, even if AI hasn't itself done like astounding things to improve our lives, it has allowed us to, on our own, we can like, it has empowered more people to do things on their own, which I feel is a great place. It's a great way that AI has helped us. And it's also helped people like us gather around together so we can share all these thoughts and opinions in such a great way. And that's just a great way that AI has helped us. So I feel like it's generally positive.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for that great question and response, Kevin. Our final finalist in the second category, finalist number 8. It's my pleasure at this time to present to you Mr. Michael Zhang. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Welcome. Yes, we can, loud and clear, sir.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Zhang. I am a grade 12 student at Poor Credit Secondary School. I'm very grateful to be participating in the Global Youth Challenge 2022, AI and the Future of Mankind, and for the opportunity to have my thoughts be heard by the world. So what I would like to talk about is some of the potential consequences of our rapidly developing technology and how we can prevent them. More specifically, the consequences of our dependency on technology. So to begin this topic, I have a little story. One day in February this year, there was a power outage that lasted for a few hours, around 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. And in those hours, it was very hard for my family and me to live our life. There was no Wi-Fi, no oven or microwave to warm foods, no lights, nothing. We had to use a couple of flashlights and candles to see, and we had to use a gas stove to cook some dumplings. And even then, it wasn't very effective at all. Our lives became very difficult for just those few hours. And then the power came back on and everything started working again. We just cooked our dinner and ate, and our lives suddenly seemed to become way easier. And that made me realize just how difficult living without technology would be. And that's what gave me the idea to talk about our reliance on technology. So it is common knowledge that the future holds an endless amount of possibilities regarding the development of technology, most of which are incredible and beneficial. However, it is also essential to remember that the development of technology will come with consequences as well as benefits. For example, the Industrial Revolution sparked a new era of technology and created much of the technology we see today. But due to the unforeseen problem of global warming from greenhouse gas emissions, the Industrial Revolution has simultaneously created the biggest threat humanity has ever faced. And learning from that moment in history, we must look ahead and see what possible problems could result from the future of developing AI. And already we are very reliant on our technology to the point where it is very difficult to live even a day without them. I find it difficult to live without my phone, my computers, my calculators. All of these things are meant to make our lives easier and more enjoyable for us. But we have to ensure that they don't take away our ability to function without them. Ever since the COVID pandemic, online learning became a very prominent part of learning. And it was a very great showcase of being too dependent on technology. For example, in my computer engineering class, I was very dependent on the digital notes and using online circuit builders to help find the answers to construct the circuits. However, when we came back into in-person learning just last year, it was a very rough transition and coming back was more challenging. I could no longer depend on the circuit builders I was depending on online, and I had to recall simple laws such as KVL and KCL that I had slacked off from learning because I had not written it down since it was just all online. And during this struggle, I was thinking to myself, how could I have prevented this? And I realized that I should have just known from the beginning that I should not have allowed myself to become dependent on technology. And I believe that everyone else needs to be aware of this as well. I believe that the solution to stop our reliance on technology should be based on education. We need to educate and teach everybody how to loosen our reliance on technology. And I believe the most important way is to spread awareness of this potential problem. We need to spread awareness about the overdependence on technology and help teach people how to live their lives without it. We need to ensure that students from early childhood, primary, and secondary education gain the same mentality to not let themselves be so blindly reliant. Students need to continue learning using traditional methods and constantly be placed in situations where they can't use their technology to help. And we can also start practicing now in our daily lives, such as using maps to plan routes instead of GPSs. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't use technology at all, but I am saying that we need to ensure that we can still live our lives if technology were to suddenly be ripped from us. Overall, we must remember that technology is made to make our lives easier, not as our legs that we depend on to walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And you bring up some very good points. That was excellent. Your first question will be addressed to you by Ms. Kelly Schultz.
Morning, Michael. Well done. That was a great presentation, and it echoing what was said earlier. It's a big concern, I think, to have our dependence solely on AI and all of that. So I want to pose a question to you. And can you see a way where we can coexist in a good way, that we do have our AI and our machine learning and all of our technologies while also living our lives independently and all of that? Like, is there a way that we can coexist without completely losing our independent thinking?
Yes, I believe there is a way in that we use technology. I believe I said that we will use technology as something to help make our lives easier to function, but we should not let ourselves become too blindly reliant. Like, obviously there are some cases where you have to use technology, like there's just no way around it, such as even like other examples in the practical world where you have to use these supercomputers to do calculations that it would be completely impossible just using human minds. But I do believe that for our essential lives, for our daily lives, just as like, eating and drinking and all of these things, even traveling, we need to ensure that we can still function without them. So that way, if one day, I believe there was some news of a solar flare that could potentially, I don't recall exactly when it was, but there was talked about the possibility that it can knock out all the power for the entire world. And that would be absolutely devastating. And I believe that we should prepare for that situation. We should always prepare in that if that day does come, we can still function. Because like I said, when the electricity was knocked out in my house, our lives were very difficult to live in. It was so hard for us to even just prepare our dinner. And I realized that we really should have prepared more. So we decided to actually, now I actually decided to go ahead and learn how to cook some foods that don't require electricity, learn how to survive without the use of technology. And I believe we can just apply that to everything else in our daily lives, in that we can still use technology, and we should. I mean, technology is meant to make our lives easier, but we need to still ensure that we need to practice that if the technology was taken away from us, we can still live our lives without too much of a hassle. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Michael. It's a great perspective, so thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for the great question and a great answer, Michael. And your final question now will come to you from our very own principal, Mr. George Vanderker.
There, and I unmuted perfectly this time. Okay, Michael, you've shown some really good insight into the problem, and I think the problem you're kind of alluding to is also AI will eventually learn from AI. In other words, and when that happens, can you maybe just think of a way that society would be prevented from developing properly because of this situation?
So it's like the problem in which that AI starts becoming advanced and starts developing more AI.
Well, it becomes kind of an echo chamber in a sense. AI just learns from itself, and it becomes a closed loop. And is there any creativity that can go outside of that loop? And what will happen to society if everything is just contained in a kind of a circular loop of AI learning from AI?
I see. Well, I'm trying to, visualize that future. And in my opinion, personally, it does sound a little science fiction-y. It does sound like the future where kind of like AI gets developed to that point where it starts like getting advanced. It reminds me kind of almost like the movie Ex Machina, almost, where there's like a very advanced robot that could learn and manipulate humans into kind of letting it escape. I'm not going to spoil too much of it, but the point is that for that kind of future, honestly, where it believes that AI is starting to learn in a closed loop, I do believe that kind of issue is more related to almost like a philosophical question, more so than I would say a practical question. It's very difficult for me to actually envision that kind of future happening, because the future I'm envisioning is that humans start using AI for everything. They start using AI for every single aspect of our daily lives. And we kind of are actually at that stage now. But it's just that I believe that AI is kind of, how do I say this? It's almost developing to the point where if we continue going on and developing AI further and further on, that it will get to the point where it almost feels like it's going to go to that science fiction aspect where it's going to rebel and suddenly AI is going to turn against humanity. Is that what the idea is? Because I personally think it's a bit more science fiction-y and not very likely in anyhood. I believe the problems that we're facing is going to be more simplistic and grounded, in which that all of our problems are going to stem from humanity themselves, in that we make our decision to get dependent on AI. We make our decisions to keep developing it to that point, instead of AI kind of causing our problems for us, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Good. I'm glad you don't share some of the prognostications and dire warnings by people like Elon Musk and even the late Stephen Hawking. So at this point, we have a slight pause before we go on to our third finalist. And if I'd like to request a few thoughts, perhaps from our professors that have joined us and have been kind to donate their time as judges, I'd like to start with asking Professor Wilton if you'd just like to share a few thoughts at this point in the interim before we begin the group 3 finalists.
Yes, I'm really enjoying these presentations. They're very well done. Students are very confident and knowledgeable about this topic, and I like the fact that they're all questioning AI as well, thinking about what it means to humanity, to humankind. I agree that I think it's more. I just watched a presentation from Dr. Thomas Hallstrom, talking about how the apocalypse related to AI isn't so much about the AI, but about human design and intervention and control, and particularly large corporations. So I thought that was really interesting, that we don't need to be more concerned about artificial general intelligence or machines figuring out how to develop common sense, which is an issue still today, but rather it's the companies, the corporations that control them. So so I think that I think it's wonderful that you're all thinking like this and you're all thinking about this, and I want to just thank you very much for your presentations.
Thank you, Professor. And Professor Slaughter, for some thoughts at this point.
Well, you got me thinking. I teach a course in knowledge media here in University of Toronto, and we basically spend our entire semester thinking about the future and the role of media. And artificial intelligence has been around for a long time. I'm almost wondering now about the name. What if it's just intelligence, right? You got somebody mentioned smart grids about in thinking about future cities, which is a great topic and one that I hope all of you will consider. We're going to need to rely on technology. I'm afraid that our last speaker is out of luck with respect to preparing for life without it. I mean, there's no way anymore. If you took electricity away from the world, or if you took the internet, even, you've got a card that tells you your number in a machine, and that's not going to go back. So, but cities are a really interesting topic to think about, and everything from transportation to food distribution. We have major issues coming our way with respect to food production, distribution, nutrition, and related to climate. And climate will be the next sort of big, you think the pandemic has been a big story for all of you because of your young years, and climate's coming next, right? So we just had 2 or 3 years of the world learning how to be intelligent around a major issue, sharing data, listening, watching and innovating and following each other's leads. Climate's coming next, and I think the world's going to need to do the same kind of thing, but for a longer term. And it's going to be your generation that will drive the intelligence. Artificial intelligence is just human intelligence manifested in technology. So I'm really hopeful about the City of Light in the one art representation, that we can build our own future and drive our own thinking. All of you are going to need careers. Many of those careers are disappearing from the face of the world because of technology, but a whole bunch more are opening up. So I hope you'll see artificial intelligence as just a broad category of using technology, machine learning, innovation, microprocessors, communication technology, social media, all of it, to respond to issues in the world and to connect people to each other. But thank you so far, so good. I'm really learning a lot today.
And thank you, Professor Slaughter, for those great insights. You should present them at a TED Talk, I think. That was excellent. Thank you. We now move on to our Group 3 finalists. If we can, it's now my honor and privilege to present to you our finalist number 9 in Group 3, Mohammed Jaffer. If you're with us, Mohammed, welcome very much, Mohammed, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, my name is Mohammed Jaffer. I go to Helena Islamic School in Ottawa, Canada. Thanks to GYC for giving me this opportunity, and thank you to my teacher who has supported me throughout this challenge. I wanted to join GYC 2022 to try a new challenge and was interested in the topic of AI. So, when we think about AI, do we always remember the positive aspects? When we think about AI, do we think about the negative aspects? The answer to both questions is no. What we need to do is ensure the increase of the positive impacts of AI and consequently decrease the negative ones. In my essay, I focus on both the positives and the negatives of AI in the subject of engineering. On the positive side, AI has made our lives a lot easier and safer with a reduction of human error and a 24/7 availability. Digital assistants like Siri and Alexa are very easy tools to use. With speech recognition, they can easily open apps and check the weather for you or search things on Google faster. Another example is driverless cars. These cars are programmed to recognize patterns such as steering, lane changing, or parking by connecting AI to sensors in the car. The sensors gather traffic information by connecting to the car's cameras and to online road maps. This reduces crashes while the car is following traffic rules that people sometimes tend to break, like speeding or tailgating. However, we should be careful. AI can put humanity at risk. It can be used as spy drones, destruction, and combat. This could lead to mass surveillance and breach of privacy. It is believed that the more AI is developed, the less privacy there is due to many hackers invading. AI will most probably leave people unemployed because one machine could accomplish the work of many employees, probably in less time too. It would also be cheaper for companies to substitute humans with machines and software programs, and this may increase the socioeconomic inequalities. So I believe individuals and companies and private organizations should not be the ones to decide the future of AI and its impact on our future. Most of the time, competition and the need for power and money drives them to invent and create AI systems, programs, and machines without taking into consideration how people or the environment will be harmed. So how do we ensure the safe use of AI and lower its catastrophic consequences? I believe that AI should be regularized and controlled by the United Nations and recognized by legitimate international organizations. We might need AI acts and more control exercised by the legitimate bodies. How do we make this happen? The best way is to sign petitions and hold peaceful public demonstrations to pressure the government to take action. Since everyone is on social media, we can also raise awareness on social platforms like Facebook and Instagram by posting pictures and videos that show people how we can make the best of AI if we use it wisely. With these considerations, humankind can enjoy the benefits of AI with minimum negative outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed, for those great insights. Your first question will be presented to you by Mr. Andrew Shao.
Oh, that was a really good presentation. I really agree with you that we should totally ensure the positive impact of AI technology, and we should also minimize the negative impact. And also agree with you that AI technologies should be regularized and controlled. So my question is, so for technologies that have the potential risks, such as taking over people's jobs, so do you have any can you elaborate more on how you think we should regularize them? Or do you think it's more beneficial to have them? Or do you think we should completely stop them from being developed? Just your opinion on this.
Yeah, so I think that I think that people, like the robots, like most of the time AI doesn't need to eat or sleep or do any of these things. So I think the best I think the jobs that are like let's say people time shift, you know, like they're sometimes awake in the night and then someone's awake in the day. I think AI can replace that part, but then in some jobs, like for example, in a restaurant, for example, people kind of serving the food and everything, like being cashier and everything and all of that. I think that I don't think that AI should be involved in this because there's a lot of people that work in these restaurants, and I think it's better for AI to only be involved in really hard tasks that and risky tasks that humans won't be able to accomplish that easily.
Thank you for your answer.
No problem.
Thank you for the question and a great answer. And your second question will be presented to you by Professor Wilton.
Thank you very much for sharing those the interesting perspectives about the positive and negative effects of AI as it affects humans, and also for your suggestion that we need to stand up and advocate for these important issues. And I like that you brought up the issue of regulating AI, and that it's important to regulate AI to mitigate the possible negative effects on humans. And so that made me think a little bit about how some people speculate that social media can be controlled by companies and corporations, and that what's posted on social media can influence how we think. So I might just share in the chat a link to Dr. Ann Cavoukian, who was a 3-time privacy commissioner in Ontario, who's very much interested in regulating AI. And I think she has a lot to say. So I'll share that link. But my question to you is, how can we champion the importance of fair and unbiased regulation that's controlled by a neutral overseeing body, like you suggested? I think you suggested the UN, without the influence of large corporations who have a lot of money and a lot to gain through their profits and their commitments to their own shareholders, but who might not necessarily benefit from sound regulation. What do you think we can do? How can we champion that against those larger companies and corporations?
Yes, thank you for your question. I think that for example, the people, like there is a lot of people on social media, right? So we have to trust, usually we have to try to trust like people who like basically they know how to sorry, just give me a second. So basically I can't talk.
Sorry, it was a long question with many pieces. That's okay, take your time. I'm just, of course we don't have the answers. I'm just thinking about how do we, as human beings who aren't part of large corporations, how do we advocate for that kind of regulation that might not benefit those large companies?
Yeah, so I think that we must we try our best to spread awareness to try to make AI like being regulated and controlled by legitimate international organizations or people who know how to kind of know how to use these bots, because and we try to kind of avoid big companies that try to create AI just for the need of power or money, just like what I mentioned. And I really think that we should try to just avoid them, I guess. Maybe we can protest, but it's going to be a little more violent. So I don't know. I think the best way to do this is by spreading awareness in social media. I think that's all. That's my answer.
Thank you.
And thank you, Professor, and for the link and for the answers, Mohammed. Our next finalist in group 3, it's my honor and privilege to present to you Anita Chong. Welcome, Anita.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I just want to mention that I closed my virtual background just because I want to display my RPs clearly in front of you guys, because the virtual background got messed up with the paper, Yeah. Okay, so I'm starting right now. Hello, everyone. My name is Anita Chen. I'm a grade 11 senior currently studying at White Oak Secondary School in Oakville, Canada. Thank you all for coming, and I really appreciate all the time and effort everyone has put into making this event possible. Although artificial intelligence has been a widely debated topic in the recent years due to its exponential rate of improvement, we living in our fast-paced lives rarely have any chance to truly settle down and think critically about how it has actually influenced our society, either positively or negatively. However, JOIC has really provided every one of us an incredible opportunity to contemplate and investigate more in depth into this subject, to listen to other people's ideas, and also brings me a chance to share my opinion regarding the inequitable distribution of AI resources, how it is making the rich richer and the poor poorer. The question, is AI ever a thing that can be reached by everyone in the world, has been wandering in my head throughout the process of my research. I feel like this problem is neglected by so many people, as I found most of the articles online are discussing how AI improves the quality of life in various disciplines of studies, or about how it is almost surpassing human intelligence, rather than mentioning this fundamental matter. Although those arguments are worthy of debate, I cannot help but ponder how AI could continue to increase the gap between rich and poor if it is consistently ignored, and if there's any way that I can use my own way and voice to call as much attention to my concern. So I chose to create an art piece relating to this topic, as people always say that art has no boundaries. It is the best way that I can think of to make my ideas easily understood and spread among all age groups and ethnicities. So the drawing generally emphasizes the two contrasting ends of artificial intelligence, which on one side is the colorful world where the social elites are working and improving along with these technology in disciplines of business, biology, data analytics, and medicine. Whereas on the other end is the pale ruins filled with desperation and misery, as the lower class can never reach the standard of obtaining these cutting-edge devices. The elevator on the top right corner is the further demonstration of the upper class of people, indicating them keep progressing upwards to supremacy with the complement of these tools. These appliances not only provide them with shortcuts of making more money, but also increase their wages as the dominance of AI in the economy induces greater demand in their work. And these together undoubtedly make their lives even more prosperous. On the other end of the spectrum, the low-skilled and uneducated people whose abilities are limited to their grassroots jobs will see their living collapse into the ruins, just like the painting. The problem is far beyond the fact that they cannot get engaged with these technology to make profit from them. But according to the World Bank, most of their jobs could be substituted by automation in an estimated 20 years. The girl in the center is the representation of this group, who wants to reach a more advanced society but is incapable of and rejected. And the falling person on the left is also an indication of these people continue to drop to a lower status as they no longer have any position in the society, in contrast to the rising elevator on the top. Using my piece of art in this meaningful way, I really want to create as much impact on the viewers, more so on a global level, to tell them that the enlarging gap between the two classes caused by artificial intelligence is happening. Even if it is not what can be solved by short term, but it's still important for all of us as a whole to start to find a way out of this cycle. For instance, developing replacement jobs or lowering the threshold of obtaining AI. There will be one day that we can share the benefits brought by artificial intelligence together. Thank you all again for listening to my presentation, and it's also amazing to hear from other contestants about their inspiring perspectives of AI and the future of humankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, for that excellent presentation. Your first question will come to you from Professor Slaughter.
Okay, hi, Anita. I loved your art.
Thank you.
I'm sure it can be published somewhere. Probably already thought about that.
My honor.
Very evocative. It tells the story. My question has to do with whether this is a worry, a potential reality, or a guaranteed reality. And parts of your statement, your recorded statement, got me a little worried that you're convinced this is a guaranteed reality, and I'm not sure it is. For example, like I absolutely believe the rich will get richer. That's always going to happen. Let's just take that as a statement of fact, right? We're going to get our cream off the top. All of us 1%ers, and I'll include all of us that are here today in that. But history has shown, and there's data to show this, that as the technology in the world has progressed, the poor have not gotten poorer, they have also gotten richer, not just not as fast. If you look at China, for example, they sustained 15% growth across the board for like 15 or 20 years. I mean, it's amazing what's been happening in China, in India, in Africa. And I know that the gap and the sort of broadening gap is definitely a concern, but I'm wondering if you could talk about how AI could help these the developing South. I think there are two different kind of groups of concern. There's the groups in our countries who are disadvantaged, who indeed may lose their jobs and may be automated out of their jobs and may have a real struggle to find anything besides government assistance, right? That's an issue. But there's also the developing South, which is, the majority of the population of the Earth is sort of is benefiting from some of our technologies and some of our ways of distributing knowledge and resources. Can you maybe talk a little bit about how these technologies could help, if not shorten the gap between the rich and the poor, at least bring the poor along for some of the benefits?
Yes, like I didn't mention the thing, like I'm never saying that artificial intelligence is a bad thing. Like the general trend of the world is like everyone is going to become richer. It's just like the pace, how the richer is becoming richer in a faster pace than the people in the working class and the lower class, because basically just like to talk about the younger and the older, some of the older people are not so used to getting along with those artificial intelligence. And so they are like proceeding in a slower pace than the younger person. So than the younger people, and also the working class who are low educated and low skilled, they are not really like so used to get engaged with these technologies, just like what I have mentioned in my presentation. And of course, everyone is actually, I cannot say that everyone, but most of the people are actually benefited from artificial intelligence. It's just how we use it. For example, because the rich people are always developing technology, like the new devices, they're all about like how to benefit themselves, because people are always selfish, and they just want to benefit themselves from developing those technology. But they need to separate, like they need to divide a little bit of their profits brought by artificial intelligence to help those poor. For example, improving their level standard of education and get them actually got a chance to get involved with these high tech, with these education standards. For example, we are doing the online courses right now, all of these stuff. Of course, artificial intelligence would have been bringing everyone to a higher level. It's just depending on the pace, like how we're balancing out the development and the new inventions of all the other devices that would have come up in the future.
Okay, so you mentioned education and access, and I think economy is another one where there's new opportunities for commerce that are opening up. And I really want us all to remember that these technologies, they may benefit the rich, but they will be a promising way of handling some of the inequities in society as well.
It's never too late.
Never too late, especially with you guys.
Okay, great. Thank you, Professor, for that question and that answer. And now your second question, Anita, will come to you from Professor Chen.
Yeah, hi, Anita. I really like your art, and I think it shows us the very classic destructive effect of the creation. That is, whenever you have a new creation, you actually destroy the old ones. It's some kind of a replacement, a certain kind of evolution, but it's sometimes brutal. Okay, and so my question was actually quite similar to Jim. Now I want to probably change my question a little bit. Maybe it is a little bit, more difficult. Like for example, what do you think is the major difference between this new phenomenon of this destructive creation, like AI, with the traditional kind of a destructive creation, just like for example the innovation of the steam machines or the innovation of the computers. Those are so-called industrial revolution, and they bring up those kind of inequality problems, and the richer become richer, poorer become poorer, and all of this kind of questions still exist until today when we are talking about AI. So what's new here? Can you just give me some kind of idea?
So basically your question is mentioning how the new technology compared to the older ones, just like the steam machines and all of those stuff, and the intelligence is basically from the modern society. Is it like the question?
What's the characteristics of this one, of this kind of a revolution?
Okay, so it's basically people are advancing their technology like in a higher level right now. Like the reason why it's called artificial intelligence is because some of them are actually intelligent compared to those machines. They're just like just help you to work. But nowadays, some of the people, like the techno scientists, are actually inventing those technologies that are like robots. Some like trying to get more information into their brain, like not really the brains, but actually they have some sort of intelligence in them. And the problem is that we need to use them in an ethical way. Like the ones from the older ages, they're just helping people to work. But the modern ones, the newer ones, they're more likely to, if you use it in an unethical way, like an unethical way, it might actually bring to some devastating results. For example, just like what I have mentioned, some of them might surpass human intelligence and also actually influence the security of our information and the balance of the social status between the rich and poor and all of those stuff. And because the advancement and development is becoming faster and faster, so it is like what we all need to be aware of, to use it in an ethical way and actually divide out a little bit of time to slow down the pace of our lives, slow down the pace of the development, and to actually think about how we should balance out the usage and the invention of these devices.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you for that excellent answer. Our finalist number 11 in group 3. It's my pleasure at this time to introduce to everyone Ms. Sharon Zhu. Welcome, Sharon, and the floor is yours.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharon, and I'm a grade 12 student from the Arundel Academy. Before starting, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever thought of how to resolve the COVID-19 and the ongoing war? I bet you have. Since many people are suffering from these two disasters right now, I want to tell you some good news. With the wise use of artificial intelligence, humans are actually able to coexist with viruses and weapons. To begin with, AI leads scientists into the world of viruses, enhancing their capabilities to discover and prevent viruses. For example, lots of viruses are found in melting glaciers, bothered by cumbersome equipment. Scientists are bogged down in delving into disastrous microbes. But fortunately, some AI robots save people out of the predicament by diving into the freezing ocean to collect samples, analyze molecules, and identify vaccines beforehand. Furthermore, future lethal pandemics might find nowhere to hide because a method of machine learning has already succeeded in scouring through various zoonotic viruses' genomes and predicting their likelihood of being infectious. Another method employs AI to anticipate the mutations of the pathogen of COVID-19 by assessing millions of genomic sequences, which may predict and make people prepared for the occurrence of the next Omicron. Also, with the recent Ukraine war, the delicate piece is tugging at everyone's heartstrings. But you know what? AI can help predict, terminate, and prevent wars through its mighty analysis function. First of all, by assessing global data on a historical context, AI can predict wars. Secondly, through sentimental analysis of the social media posts by activists, AI can perceive the information asymmetry. After scanning substantial sources and presenting the fullest possible picture to all concerned, AI can create a more transparent and equal negotiating circumstance for ceasefires. Nonetheless, all the benefits I mentioned above are based on a premise that AI is wisely used, because the wrong use of it can result in catastrophes. Since it is a machine conducting actions as programmed, a robot might constantly upgrade itself for a specific purpose at any cost. For example, a robot designed to search for viruses might end up harming the environment because its only purpose is to find viruses anywhere and everywhere. This robot is not instinctively bad, but a conductor of emotionless codes. Even worse is if terrorists get AI technology to intercept crucial information about international security. Accordingly, the true culprit of future risks caused by AI is the improper and ignored use by humans of ourselves. In a nutshell, the proper use of AI is intertwined with the prosperous future of humankind. Therefore, I strongly suggest scientists and politicians harness AI to lead all humans to coexist with viruses and weapons. Most importantly, we should use AI ethically and vigilantly, coexisting with it right now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. That was excellent. Great points. Your first question will be addressed to you by Mr. George Vanderkerk.
Sorry, sir, unmute yourself.
There we are. Hi, Sharon. That was great. And I really enjoyed your presentation. Just a minute. I wonder if we can turn that off. Yeah. We're having an echo. We're just turning down the... Okay. No, not yet.
It might be Sharon that needs to mute.
Oh, okay.
We're just dealing with the Sharon.
Sorry, everyone. We're just dealing with a technical difficulty. If we could just kindly ask for your patience for a couple of minutes.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
And we've turned off the other speaker in the room. So Sharon, that was really great. And I think that medical applications have huge potential in with AI, even just improving the flow of patients through hospitals and that kind of thing. But you know, AI, it learns, it informs, and then it acts. But I wonder if you can kind of comment on the fact that AI itself might become a disease.
Yes, I do believe that AI itself can be a
can't hear
disease.
Sharon.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I will begin. Because now, you know, the AI, there are viruses in the computers, right? So they are called the cyber viruses. So cyber viruses. So why can't the cyber viruses become the real viruses in our real life? That can be a reality in the future. And also, as I said, we can use AI robots to go to delving into the disastrous microbes. And we can use AI to find the viruses melting in the glaciers. But the point is that if these AI robots came by, and what if they are affected by the viruses, right? If the humans, they are affected by the viruses, then they will show their syndromes. Then we can see they are get infected, and we can cure them. But what if the robots, they carry some viruses back to our life? Then they will accelerate the spread of the viruses. Then this time, AI robots are becoming some kind of viruses in our real life, right? And also the third thing is that since now AI is very advancing, so what if, listen, what if some scientists or some malicious people, they use robots to invent some kind of virulent viruses? Then, so the robots, they are not going to create viruses, but because of the people behind them, they create viruses by using AI. Then we can still call that these robots are becoming diseases in the future, and becoming the virus in the future, right? Yeah, that's my answer about this question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a good answer. I was also thinking of the way you know, AI could actually start infecting us mentally. You know,
yes, I do think so.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much for that great question and answer, Sharon. Your second question will be presented to you by Ms. Alicia Comfall.
Great. Hi, Sharon.
Hi.
So really loved your take on AI towards healthcare. Sorry, Sutton. So I really appreciate your perspective towards AI towards healthcare, because it can be quite a touchy subject for some and for others. So I know AI is fundamentally changing human society and our approach to public health. Nonetheless, we cannot elaborate the study and executive effect that AI strategies are required without the dedicated input and ethical deliberations from collaborating and trustworthy and experienced clinicians and forward-thinking medical data scientists. So my question to you is, what do you think is the impact with doctors and other healthcare workers or scientists with the implementation of AI? Do you think it would necessarily substitute, or would it support?
Well, I definitely think it will support. like I did some research and I found that some robots can work as mobile radiologists who can shorten the diagnosing time in the hospital. So this can, of course, relieve the work pressure of some medical staff, right? And some robots can help the doctors triage the patients even before the disease is confirmed. And this will definitely make our medical care system be more advancing. And also, I think why the AI can support the medical stuff can also be manifested in the remote cure, remote medicine. Like, if I got a disease, but I don't want to go to the hospital because there is enough crowded. So if I can stay at home, then I can get some instrument from the robots. Then this robot can tell me what I can do to relieve my pain, to cure my disease, right? So this robot can help mitigate the crowded situation in hospital right now. So I think robots can both work as a mobile radiologist in the hospitals. It can work as the mobile doctors who can triage patients, and it can also work as the remote doctor who can optimize the limited medical resources. So some patients, they don't need to go to the hospital, they can just get procurement in the home. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the excellent question and answer. Our 12th finalist in group 3, it's my privilege to present to you Mr. Derek Ma. Welcome, Derek.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Derek. I'm 15, and I'm a student from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to say thank you to the GYC organizers and for the judges for being here and listening to our presentation today. Let me begin by asking you a question. How would you feel if your relatives, your children, and yourself experience racism every day without having the chance to make your voices heard? Hence, in today's presentation, I will talk about how we can implement AI to solve the problem of racism. Before we dig into this problem, let's explore the different kinds of racism, such as online discrimination, workplace discrimination, racial segregation, and many more. Now, these types of racism and discrimination all have a same roots and causes, which is a person's history, culture, education, etc. There are many ways in help to solve racism, such as by publishing books, creating posters, creating artwork, or by changing the education system itself. But the problem is, how can we make these pieces of work and changes be more informed and popular to the audience so they can be more aware of this problem and situation? You see, before AI was invented, a piece of knowledge is being conveyed through word by word, mouth by mouth. However, after the invention of AI, we can use it as a tool to help spread awareness to a larger scale of people than ever before. So more of them can take action and be informed about this. An example of what I meant is the Black Lives Matter movement and the Stop Asian Hate movement, and how, as we can see, only by one video, it can post it into social media, it can literally go viral in seconds. And now it spikes up mass protests in the globe. And now everyone can be informed about this. Elaborating more on this point, I've also created a poster, I don't know if you guys can see it, which I talked about the importance of stopping Asian hate, and I talked about the causes and the solution, also some images so that my audience can visualize it easier. Now, this is a great example of what I meant by spreading awareness, since I can easily upload this into my social media page, or I can create a campaign out of it. so more people can be aware and take action towards this issue. This achieves greater efficiency that rather than me just printing the poster out and sticking it around my neighborhood, which is clearly quite ineffective. Secondly, as the world is becoming more digitalized, online discrimination is also becoming more common. Hence, we can use an AI technology called natural language processing, which analyzes text messages, emails, voice recordings, etc., to identify racist and discrimination behavior, and to also alert future victims about the person who they're going to talk to. To wrap up, I think AI clearly symbolizes a nuclear power plant, because even though it gives us many benefits, it will have horrendous consequences if we can't maintain or control it. And in this case for AI, it's hackers hacking into our algorithm, disrupting it, which we do not want. So if you are ever experiencing discrimination, remember AI is always right beside you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Derek, for that excellent presentation. Your first question, Derek, will come to you from Ms. Kelly Schultz.
Hello, Derek. Thank you very much for your presentation. I just wanted to ask you if you think that AI is really truly the way to end racism. Like, do you think that that is going to be the cure for the racism? Like, is it? The reason why I ask is because I see where you're going with this. I see how using the NLP to track the language and things like that. But my mind goes to the opposite of that and the con to that, right? And I just want you to maybe explore a little bit more some of the consequences of maybe using AI in this space.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for your question. So you see, racism, as I said in my presentation, can be ended in many ways. However, I believe that through AI, we can use it basically as a tool to help support our solutions to ending racism, such as in this case is by changing the education system, creating more diversity in the curriculum, or by just having events that clearly talks about this idea and how people have different perspective in it. However, I think that AI will really help increase the effectiveness of these solutions. However, not really have that effectiveness as books, poster, changing the education system, adding more diversity, but it will clearly help support and increase its effectiveness. Yes.
Great. Thank you, and thank you for bringing awareness and an AI perspective to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Yes, very well done. Thank you for the question and the great answer. Your second question, Derek, will come to you from Andrew Shao.
Hi, Derek. That was a very inspiring presentation. I really like your idea of using AI technologies to cope with some existing social or issues in our society. Actually, Ms. Schultz kind of asked the question I was planning to ask you, but so yeah, I noticed you use the word solve instead of other words like lessons or mitigate or reduce for like solving racism. So my original question is just, I was just wondering if you think AI technology can completely eradicate racism from our society, but you cannot answer that. So I guess my other question would be, you also mentioned using natural language processing technique that can kind of like identify racist behavior from like online comments, emails or text messages. So I'm just wondering, do you think if there's any limitations or specific concerns we should consider when we implement such technology? So is there any policies you think we should make?
Yes. First of all, thank you for your question. I believe even though natural language processing has its benefits, it will also have consequences such as privacy and its accuracy, because AI is not always accurate, right? Because it analyzes specific keywords to identify if that person is racist or not. However, it's, like I said before, it's not actually accurate. And we can solve this by letting AI gather more information to increase its accuracy, right? Because once you have more information about someone, the accuracy of getting it correct would increase. And we should also, yeah, so that is what I think it's one of the drawbacks of using NLP. The second drawback that I also mentioned is privacy, right? Because like you're basically analyzing people's text messages and emails. Now, we can solve this by having a whole organization behind it with specific experts in coding the algorithm and making sure that no privacy or security can be leaked. And if in the worst scenario actually leaks, the person can actually spread awareness using AI itself into social media page so that more people can know about that their privacy is being leaked and more people can protest about this issue. Yes, thank you. That's all.
Awesome, thank you for your answer.
Yes, and thank you for your question and great answer. Well done, Derek. Okay, we're now ready to move on to our fourth group of finalists. Just as a quick mention before we get to the fourth group, I've been asked to tell the judges to request from the judges a quick TV interview at the end of the contest. So if the judges can stay around for a couple of minutes afterwards, and that would be appreciated. So we're now ready to go into our fourth group of finalists. Our fourth finalist number 13 in group 4, it's my honor to present to you Xin Guan. Welcome, Xin, and the floor is yours. Welcome.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. You may not realize, but the artificial intelligence is already widely utilized in our daily life. As Professor Wandaker mentioned before, we are all individuals, not robots, right? But have you ever imagined that one day your teachers or classmates will become robots? Hello, everyone. My name is Xin Guan, a student from China. I appreciate the opportunity to be one of the 60 finalists. I'm so tantalized to see all of you here. You know, I have experienced the lockdown these days because of the COVID-19. I'm not able to hang out with friends. However, I don't feel lonely because I have created a friend. Does this sound incredible? Today, I'm going to share the amazing idea about AI companion with you. As mentioned previously, there's an AI chatting application called Replica, which helps people to create their unique friends to chat with. I think these bots accompany people and fulfill the higher psychological need, which is obviously useful for humans. Various AI companions are substantially common nowadays, such as smartphones, smart speakers, digital assistants, a room bias, and so on. AI companion has quietly, gradually integrated into humans' life. Now, some people may have different opinions like, well, they are just machines that are created by humans. They only work for mankind. Well, as a matter of fact, humanoid technology is not only seen in movies, but it also exists in the society now. Those virtual idols have already started to earn money from advertising, modeling, or even performing on the stage. They post their photos and vlogs on social media just like a real person. As the technology is advancing, robots started to have their own emotions and feelings and even varied moral values. It can be seen as a positive impact on human beings since people need this AI companion to alleviate loneliness and anxiety. However, it will also become a hidden danger for us. For example, my mom bought a VR headset last month, and her original goal was to make the family less boring during the quarantine, but it caused us to immerse in the virtual world. Then I realized that these AI companions, which are supposed to accompany people, is dominating people's consciousness, right? When they are accompanying mankind, they can read and learn from people's activities. And then it's an easy task for them to override everyone, once the battle between human and AI starts. Although artificial intelligence is the product of human intelligence, but the probability of human brain defeating computers, I think, is uncertain. I believe that AI companions will improve the quality of our lives, but we cannot entirely rely on it. Once again, from my own perspective, the era of artificial intelligence has well and truly arrived. Subsequently, our goal is to be friends with AI, not make them our enemy. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for that excellent presentation. Your first question will come to you from Mr. Andrew Shao.
Hi, Xinxin. Nice presentation. I really agree with your idea that we should totally make AI a friend before making an enemy. And also agree that AI technology with the capability of social intelligence can engage in better interaction with human, but also there's also a risk that AI may one day override human. So I wonder, in your opinion, do you have any specific suggestions on how we can prevent AI from becoming our enemies, or like how we can make sure it is always on our side? So do you have any suggestions based on your own opinion?
Yeah, well, so as I mentioned, AI, like artificial intelligence, is the product of human intelligence, right? So it's basically the relationship between artificial intelligence and a human is the computer and human brain, right? So I think when humans set up their programs in the computers, like the computers is their brain, right? So when we set up the program, we just make them human friendly. And also, if we want to like be friends with them, so first, if we want them to be friends with us, so first we should be friends with them. We just like get along with them like to our human friends. Yeah, that's my suggestions.
Thank you for your answer.
Yes, and thank you for your question, and that was a great answer. Your second question, Chin, will come from Professor Wilton.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation about companionship is something that human beings instinctively need, and I especially like the video of the dog as well.
Thank you.
I think when I was reading what you wrote and listening to you, I think what you're doing or what you're saying is that it's only a matter of time before chatbots become more powerful, and that we have to find ways to embrace our understandings of these and the AI technology underlying them. And so I think what you're doing is you're recognizing the importance of AI literacy and common understandings of what these AI technologies are about. You know, in the case of everyday users, because there's everyday uses of AI available to us now, especially with that companionship application. So I think we have to, I think what you're saying is that it's important for us to have an AI literacy, for everyone to have a level of AI literacy, to understand that the underlying technologies of the applications that we're using. And in understanding those at a basic level, then we can identify kind of the hidden dangers that you mentioned as well. So I'm wondering if you could just address that. What do you think would be important to thinking about AI literacy for everybody? For everybody.
So you mean so your question is that the ability of like read and learn of the artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah, to look for a common understanding for all citizens, even, you know, people who are maybe technology shy or maybe inexperienced seniors, for example, who may be interacting with these companion AI applications, how important and how could we go about ensuring that there's some level of AI literacy so that we can identify potential dangers?
Okay. So basically, AI will be powerful. Like the artificial intelligence is based on humans' brain, humans' wisdom. But like, what we should do is just to be friendly to them. Like human wisdom is the root of this strength, right? Well, it may be bad for AI to become an enemy, like I mentioned, but human wisdom for like tens of thousands of years will not be defeated. In fact, mankind has always been facing many dangers, like natural disasters or coronavirus. Like humans have been trying to overcome them. So I think if AI really like more powerful, more stronger than human brain, then I believe mankind will overcome this danger, and I believe mankind is strong enough, is powerful enough to like to make it solved. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And I might just put in the chat as well that I follow Dr. Virginia Dignam, who talks about responsible AI. And then Dr. Thomas Hellstrom, I mentioned earlier, talks about social intelligent robots. So again, along the lines of companionship, I'll put their information in the chat if you want to look them up. But thank you for this important presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, and thank you for that information, Professor Wilton. Great. Our 14th, and thank you again, Jimin. Our 14th finalist, it's my privilege and honor to present to you Ms. Elizabeth Long. Elizabeth?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Okay, good evening and morning, everyone. And my name is Elizabeth Ishu Long. It's my honor to participate in GYC 2022. And I'm delighted to be here to present my opinions about AI art and the future of humankind. To begin with, let's imagine a scene like this. When you walk into a gallery, so many sculptures and paintings are caught in your eyes. They're so fascinated that you just keep admiring with them without moving a step. Suddenly, you find a label that introduces a painting. This is created by AI. Will you shock at the sight? As we all know, art always plays a vital part in our daily life. So many artists extract their feelings or ideas and then convey them to us through their artworks. Nowadays, the AI art, which has developed rapidly, is no longer to just simply draw a picture, but has the ability to create a true artwork for us. Sometimes it can even do better than us. Isn't it an amazing thing that we haven't seen so far? Actually, I think AI art offers so many benefits for us. Firstly, it interprets artistic beauty from another perspective. A lot of people like its unique and fancy art style. More importantly, it can promote economic growth and bring a lot of profits to us. That's why there are more and more galleries are willing to exhibit and sell artworks created by AI. For example, in October 2019, the portrait of Edmond de Bellamy created by AI was auctioned off for $350,000, which is really a high price. And however, there are still some arguments about AI art. First of all, people are scared of its ability, so they worry about that it will take artists' place, and that means so many people are going to lose their jobs. Besides, AI art has aroused a widespread discussion about whether it belongs to art or not. So a lot of people refuse to accept it. In my opinion, AI art is just a tool for human, and it can help us to alter this world better and better. just like when photography technology was born, a great number of people thought paintings would fade away. However, this didn't happen nowadays. In other words, that means we don't need to worry too much about AI art because we need to be confident about ourselves that we can handle it. Approach to develop it in a proper way should be cooperating. I think the artist So Chen is doing very well. She takes advantage of machine arms to create sculptures and paintings. As a result, she creates wonderful things for us. This world is developing every day, every moment, and every time. As for human, we cannot stop but to follow. I think AI art's future is bright and shine as long as we use it properly. Let's treat it with an optimistic attitude and encourage its development. This is all. Thank you for your listening.
And thank you, Elizabeth, for that excellent presentation. Your first question now will come to you from Principal George Vanderkerk.
So that was great. Sorry, we have the same echo problem again. There we go. So that gives you a chance to kind of gather your thoughts. And Elizabeth, that was great. I'm really interested in this because I do some art myself, and you kind of wonder. And by the way, I saw in the 1980s, I saw a machine that actually did art, and that art was being sold. So this is not new, and but it does talk about creativity and emotion. And of course, do you think that AI can actually have an emotional component to its art?
Thank you for your question, sir. I think, in my opinion, I think AI art cannot do this step right now, but we can't just see a part of a picture. We need to have a broader horizon that we should expect that maybe some days it can do that. But I think it's really hard for it because the emotion and some ideas, they just come from human ourselves. And as for AI, it just uses the big data and something from our humans' history and something came out from our humans' brains, and he takes advantage of it to create. But actually, I'm a little bit scared about it. Is if it can emotionally express itself or it owns its own brain, and I think maybe that will be the end of this world. And it's just my opinion. Thank you.
That's a great answer. A great answer. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Great question, great answer. And your second question, Elizabeth, will come to you from Ms. Kelly Schultz.
Hello, thank you, Elizabeth. Great presentation. And I very much appreciate your thoughts and bringing the AI into the arts. I'm very passionate about the arts, so it's been nice to read along and hear you speak about this. My question, I guess, for you is with the broader arts. You talked about paintings and whatnot, but how can AI play a broader role, and is there a broader role for AI in the broader arts and theater and music and things like that? Do you see a way for AI to either enhance or take away from the other humanities?
I think that's a very good question. And let me think. I think AI, it creates this artworks, it creates music, and it just comes from its self deep learning. And I think I didn't catch the point of your opinion, and maybe could you please repeat that?
Sure. I'm just wondering how you think AI can play a role in some of the other arts. Is there something that we need to be concerned about as end users of that? Are we able to absorb how this AI is pushing out some of these the different art? And do you think we're ready to handle AI in some of these other ways?
I think we need to find a balance point about the human's artwork and the AI's artworks. Sometimes we think AI stole some ideas from human, but I think it's a good thing too. When AI art came out, and I think it's a completely new angle of this perspective. We can find and learn something again from AI itself. And I think we can solve it perfect, not perfectly, but I think we have that kind of ability to solve it, because human is human and the machine is machine. And we create the history, not the machine, and we create the machine. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the question and the great answer. I'd just like to mention to everyone that's viewing this now, there's a popularity contest that you should be voting on. The link has been shared in the YouTube streams and the Bilibili streams. So as we're nearing the end of this competition with 2 more speakers, please use this time to cast your vote for your favorite presenter, okay? Because we will present the audience's favorite presenter with a certificate. And here we go. We have the competition right now, and showing the votes so far on screen here. So it looks like it's a very close race by several students. So it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting finish here. So please make sure that all of your votes are cast, so that everyone gets a fair chance at this, okay? So thank you for all of you that have voted, and for those who have not voted, please cast your vote at this time. Okay, we will now go on to our 15th finalist. It's my privilege to present to you speaker number 15, Yushun Wang. Yushun Wang, my apologies, Yushun Wang. Are you present, Yushun?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, welcome.
Hi everyone, my name is Yushun and I'm a 16 years old student from Seafield National Secondary School, Malaysia. And I'm really honored to be the finalist of the Global Youth Challenge 2022. I would like to thank the panel of judges and the GYC organizers for this wonderful opportunity. Imagine the world without language barriers. AI machine translation can actually make things possible. With the advancement of AI technology, will human translator jobs be replaced by machines? Today, I'm going to talk about how will AI machine translation impact our daily life. The use of AI translator has distinct advantages to us. However, there are still some skills that AI translator cannot do, but a human can. In my essay, there are 3 main points. Firstly, the advantages of an AI translator. From my perspective, AI translation has given me the motivation to learn foreign languages and make the learning process to become easier. When I travel abroad, AI translators in multilingual has helped me to communicate with people around the world. Besides, the instant translation in various social media applications has improved my social interactions with people in different languages. This has made business communications easier as well, especially in e-commerce trading. AI translations not only help to save time, but it also saves costs in large volume of business translations process. Secondly, I would like to talk about the disadvantages of AI translator. The accuracy and consistency of different languages has not been standardized. It often produces translations that contain significant grammatical errors. It usually defaults to the most common word choice and losing definition of the original text. Next, I would like to talk about some skills that AI translators still cannot do. As a comparison, human translation uses creativity, critical thinking, and cultural awareness to deliver message that resonates with the market audience, which is impossible for AI translation. Therefore, I suggest a better way to solve this problem is that humans and AI should work together. This is because machine translation is fast and cheaper. However, to make this translation suitable for business use, humans are still required to proofread and post-edit them, as it is still inaccurate and ungrammatical. With that being said, human translator jobs will not be replaceable, or at least for now. In my opinion, AI translators will definitely bring us more benefits than threats. And I believe that AI translators could change the world one day. This is because AI translation that solves the language barrier has fostered an appreciation for different cultures, religions, and history. And hence, a greater communication and understanding will be achieved, and a peaceful world where people of different languages can communicate seamlessly. Therefore, we should all embrace the change to deal with the new challenges of the future intelligence era. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Yishun, for that excellent presentation. My good friend in Japan, who's been a professional translator for 33 years, will be happy to hear his job's not going to be replaced anytime soon. It reminds me of the AI interpretation of the term in English, the phrase out of sight, out of mind. AI translated it as an invisible idiot. So, all right, your first question now, Yishun, will be presented to you by Professor Wilton.
Thank you very much for that really interesting presentation. I really like that you brought into the topic of AI translation, the important competencies that we think about, at least in education, creativity, critical thinking, and culturally responsive thinking. So I'm glad that you were able to make those connections. I found that very helpful. And I think that you're suggesting that AI translators are more likely to benefit humans than to cause harms. But I like that you're also cautious about better understanding what might be involved. And I know in my classes, when we've examined some of the translation software, we sometimes run into bias and you know, the inability to be helpful to all students. Managing accents, for example, is still an issue. So so this led me back to the question that I had for another presenter, which was that I think what you're also calling for is for us all to have a better understanding of the AI technology that underlies these translation applications. So I guess my question is, what are your thoughts on how people who are relying on these translation applications, how will people, or how can people better understand the underlying technologies, because they're very complicated and someone without a computer programming background might have difficulty understanding how the translation applications work, but we need that understanding in order to understand what could go wrong. So how could people, common users, better understand the underlying technologies in these translation applications? What do you think?
Well, thank you for the question. And I believe that in my speech, I say that the benefits of AI will always outweigh the threats of AI. And from my perspective, I really think that AI will either be a benefit or a threat to humankind, solely depending on how a mankind's rational thought of this new technology. Because AI uses neural translation programming and also data-driven algorithm. So I believe that it's necessary to learn and avoid the threats brought by AI, as there's no doubt that as AI advances, it will drastically alter our way of living. So we should not blindly rely on AI, because although the emergence of AI in multiple apps and fields has satisfied many users, but there are still inherent problems of the AI technology, such as information leakage and privacy violations, which has really sounded the alarm for us. So I believe we should all positively affirm the advantages that AI brings to modern human life, while also clearly drawing a bottom line for technological development to avoid any unknown illegal purposes or exploiting for your own benefit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that great answering question. And your second question will come to you by Miss Alicia Kumfal.
Great. Thanks, Hugh, for, again, the great presentation. I really like this perspective on using AI with language. And I guess my question to you is, how do you feel AI can be used in translation when there's no script or where there's no verbal cues? So for example, those who are hearing impaired and they're using sign language. What are your strategies or what are your ideas on how AI could be implemented to support this demographic?
Thank you for the question. I believe that because right now AI is still using a neural machine translation and data-driven algorithm to translate the source language into a target language. And AI also has the ability to manage a large amount of data to turn machine translation into a tool that's constantly learning and improving in its delivery of accuracy. But I think this only covers where AI translates one language to another language, which is not including sign language. However, I feel that AI has really improved in terms of the speed and accuracy, and hundreds or even thousands of words are translated almost immediately every day, which makes it possible to save a lot of time and grasp the meaning of message accurately from the source language. And I feel that machine translation that's automated by a translation from a computer software that has yet to be innovated could be able to translate languages like sign languages or Braille to another language which can be understood by everyone. That's all from me.
Thank you for that great question and great answer, Yushun. Now our final finalist, in the 16th finalist in group 4. It's my pleasure to present to you Zainab Hussein. Zainab, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Before I start my presentation, I would like to thank the GYC organization for this incredible opportunity of achievement. And I would also like to give a very special thanks to everyone who has helped me come this far in the Global Youth Challenge. So to those of them who are listening, thank you. Now, imagine. Yes, close your eyes and imagine that tomorrow you wake up to a world where artificial intelligence has healed all of humanity from every form of disabilities. Now, open your eyes up again and look around you. Look at your local parking lot where there is special parking for the physically disabled. Look at local schools where special ed teachers are striving to help their students. Which world would you want to live in? Hi, my name is Zainab Hussein, and I'm an 8th grader at Ahl al-Bayt Islamic School. I chose the Global Youth Challenge because I'm always looking out for new opportunities and challenges. The subtopic of AI and the future of humankind that I chose to talk about was AI in healthcare. I chose this topic because I believe that healthcare is an astronomically important factor in our lives, and that it is one of the very pillars that hold up the roof of life itself. While researching about AI's role in healthcare, I found that it is split into 2 main branches: how AI positively affects healthcare and how it negatively affects healthcare. And by the end of my research, I found that one branch is sturdier and more fruitful than the other. My thesis is that AI can pose a great danger to our health when blindly trusted. However, the exploration of its potential to aid the disabled is mandatory. AI is currently helping disabled people to function. One real-life example of this is Caden Bowen. Caden is a 12-year-old boy who struggles with cerebral palsy, and because of that, he can't talk, walk, and he's legally blind. So he uses a speaking device called a Dynavox, which allows him to verbalize pre-chosen words and sentences. His dad, James, figured that Caden could utilize this voice-activated AI called Echo, I'm sure you've heard of it, to access household apps and devices. One day, while on his own, Caden took the initiative to call his grandfather and prompt him to go for a car ride. His father said that this was the most independent thing that he's ever done in his entire life, and that he couldn't have done it without the help of AI. However, AI is also a current harm to some of those who seek its aid. Not only is wearable AI harmful due to systematic errors and privacy infringement, but the current upgrades of AI make it harder for people with certain conditions to use. Caden is also a great example of this, due to the fact that now whenever he tries to call someone, Echo asks if he's sure of his decision, which complicates things for him due to his condition, especially when he's alone. Excuse me. After thorough analysis of both of the conflicting perspectives, I've concluded that when used correctly, AI can help the blind see, the deaf hear, and the mute speak. However, when used incorrectly, it can do the complete opposite. My final verdict is that through the technological progression of AI can end all disabilities and help create healing breakthroughs. But I also believe that it's too soon to let AI make our own healthcare decisions for us. So what I have to say to everybody who's listening is to get out there, do your own research, find out what you believe, then act. Fundraise for people like Caden and petition for those who are hurt by AI. Every voice counts, and at any moment, people just might need yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. That was an excellent presentation. Your first question will come to you from Professor Slaughter.
Hi, Zainab. A great pleasure to meet you. I really enjoyed reading your essay, and I loved your writing, actually. I liked the way that you turn your words. You say AI in healthcare has taken huge leaps toward the light and the dark, the good and the bad, safe and the dangerous. It has helped the deaf hear, the blind see, and the mute speak. Unfortunately, its mistakes, misinterpretation, and corruption can silence, blind, and deafen. That's very nicely done. You should think about becoming a writer, amongst other things.
I will think about that.
So I want to ask about a deeper story of health and AI. Okay, so I think you wrote nicely about some of the concerns on these end user applications, and you mentioned some huge issues. Of course, there's issues of data privacy and security. That's always a concern in this age. But I want to think about the back end of the health, care world, the health sciences. Okay, these are the thousands and thousands of life scientists, medical researchers who have advanced their science to the point where these curious innovations that you mentioned could even be conceptualized, let alone realized. Okay, in other words, your essay is describing the tip of the iceberg. I'd like to ask you now about the actual iceberg below. How does AI help these scientists do their important work? What are some of the new kinds of things they can do now? How can AI help them open up new horizons for health sciences research?
Thank you so much for that awesome question, Professor Slaughter. Just so I'm clear, your question is that how does AI help scientists improve the life of people healthcare-wise?
Yes, so we've got all of these medical people and life scientists working on, understanding how I could even help a blind kid see, and what are the kinds of affordances for their work can AI open up? What are some of the new ways that scientists can do their work and be empowered?
Well, the two devices or apps that I mentioned, the applications that I mentioned was Seeing AI So seeing AI is something that just like blind people download. I actually saw it demonstrated. It's pretty cool. So they have a phone and you can like take a photo of somebody. When you take a photo, it can describe describe an estimate of their age, how they look, kind of their facial expression. Like this person is happy, this person is sad. And of course with the person's permission, but it's a very nice thing because it also helps blind people identify their surroundings without needing the help of other people. They just take their phone out of their pocket and kind of like a seeing dog, just have a look around. Another thing that I mentioned was AID, which is another app that you can also download on your phone or like on your TV or whatever. And basically it translates oral speech into ASL. And for those of you who don't know, it's American Sign Language and vice versa. So they can talk to you and you can talk to them and it'll be free communications. Of course, this should be thoroughly analyzed for any communication errors, but it is proven and some blind people say that it's very helpful to them. Another thing that I did not mention in my essay was very advanced hearing aids. The advanced hearing aids, they are taught to take sounds and amplify them not amplify like in a hurtful way, but amplify them for the person who can't hear. And it's taught which sounds to hear and which sounds not to hear. And certain hearing aids are tested with over 12 million sounds. And this helps them sort of sort them out, figure out what the aspects of speech are to analyze them. And yeah, that really helps. And I just wanted to say one last thing, that it's not really how these applications or devices help the scientists. It's mostly about the engineers, really, because there are so many engineers to work on hearing aids that can actually open up those doorways for people who can't hear. So scientists obviously have an amazing role of predicting and stuff like that, but it's a mix of engineering and science. So yeah.
Okay. Just to point a few that you mentioned there, like I would recognize computer vision. I would recognize pattern recognition, machine learning. I can imagine all kinds of modeling. These are all tools that these scientists and engineers would use. And I think it's important to know that when we see these kind of breakthrough devices show up, that there's an entire community of knowledge workers out there that are using these tools and giving the kind of fruits of their labors out to the world. Yeah. So thank you very much for your contribution.
Great. Thank you, Professor, for your question and for the excellent answer. And for the final question of today, Professor Chen.
Okay, thank you very much. It's my great honor to be the final judge to ask you questions. I think it is a very interesting analysis on healthcare AI. I'm just wondering, do you believe that the current AI in healthcare, which is still problematic, can create some kind of unexpected kind of results? But do you believe that the improvement of such kind of AI technology in healthcare can be perfect in the future? Like it's just a great kind of technology, and at the end of the day, we don't need doctors at all. Just everybody just being replaced, but we just rely on AI. Do you think that would be the scenario?
So thank you for that amazing question, Professor Chen. So what I understood is you're asking that if I believe that in the future, AI's role in healthcare will be perfected to the point where you won't even need doctors anymore. Correct?
Yeah.
So I believe that are you saying? Okay.
No, yeah, you are right. Your understanding is right. Yeah.
Thank you. So I do believe that AI can progress to the point where it can help like thousands of people. And I do believe that it can progress to a certain perfection. However, I do not believe that it can be perfected to the point where there is no more doctors And to build onto this is the chaos theory, right? Life will always find a way, right? So new illnesses, new sicknesses, new points of fractures, new ways of getting hurt, injured, or feeling unwell. Even like advanced deep machine learning, like deep learning for AI, I don't think it could apprehend what most humans can't even apprehend, which is the chaos theory, which is how things will play out. Like you can always have a prediction, but like what happens in the future is not set in stone. So I do believe that that AI will become even partners with doctors, astronomically help them. But no, I do not believe that they can fully take over.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Professor, for your question, for that excellent answer. That concludes the presentations. Now, as the judges tabulate the final results, I'd just like to share with you. First of all, I'd like to thank the 16 presenters. You're just are incredible young people, all of you. I'm so impressed. You know, as an educator, I never cease to be impressed by the younger generation, and it's an honor to have heard your presentations. And I feel that humanity has a bright future with such wonderful and talented young people like yourselves. So I feel really good about the future. So in terms of the awards that will be presented today, first place winner will receive a certificate of distinction and a $500 award, $500. Second place, of which there will be 5. Naturally, there is only one first place winner, but there will be 5 second place winners. Each will also receive a certificate of distinction plus $200. The third place winners, of which there will be 10, you will receive $100 and a certificate of distinction. In addition, the top 25% of the students here will receive a free online leadership class. In addition to that, the top 25% of students will be eligible to win a $25,000 scholarship provided by the Arundel Academy, which can be used over a 4-year period at Arundel Academy. Just to repeat once again, Arundel is practically next door to the University of Toronto Mississauga campus in Mississauga. You will have to submit your transcripts, and a minimum GPA will be required for that. But I'm sure that these bright young students will meet that requirement. Lastly, or not lastly, the top 25% will also receive a certificate of distinction with their names posted on the website, the website. And of course, all participants will receive a certificate of participation. At this point, while we're tabulating results, I would just ask I'd like to ask at this point a couple of the judges also to give their thoughts on today's competition. So perhaps I will do that as well. I would also like to ask Miss Kelly Schultz to give her brief comments on how she felt the whole presentation went today.
Thank you. So as mentioned earlier, this is my 3rd year with the Global Youth Challenge, and I think this year has really been quite remarkable. The thoughts and just the diversity of perspectives that have been brought forward through the lens of artificial intelligence is pretty astonishing, and it gives me hope that the future of our world is in good hands with the intelligence and the of the next generation. So it's very good. Thank you all for all the submissions and your creativity and your work on this important issue. So thank you.
And thank you, Kelly, for all that you've done and for your participation. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Alicia, would you like to share a few comments?
Absolutely. Thank you again, everyone, for allowing myself and Brock to be represented in this space. To all the students, you are incredible. It is fair to say you are going to be the change makers. You are the minds of the future, and hearing you all today really gives me inspiration. It gives me hope, and I really value your passion and your vulnerability and your creativity and your intelligence being put forward towards the ideas in your presentation. So it's been truly a humbling experience to be on this panel today and to be part of this entire experience, and regardless of the result, you all are winners. You really are going to be changing the world. So thank you, everyone, for this fantastic event.
Thank you, Alicia, for participating. We really appreciate your being with us and participating and judging. Thank you so much. Professor Chen, would you like to say a couple of words?
Oh yeah, thank you very much. This is my first time to be a judge, even though it's midnight here in China, in Shanghai, and I'm restrained by the control of the pandemic. But still, with the connectivity of the internet, and also with the help of AI, we can make this wonderful event take place as smoothly as possible. And I really appreciate these opportunities, and I really inspired by the presentations of the kids, or I have to say students, and I really wish them a great success in the future, and I'm sure they will actually contribute a lot to the development of the societies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Chen, for those wonderful words and for your contribution and for what you've done today. Thank you very much for your time. And lastly, Andrew Shao, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. This is also my first time to be part of GYC, and thank you very much for letting me to be part of this amazing experience. So I was at their age about 10 years ago, so I'm really amazed by how much thought they put into AI technology, and also how much research they have done, and how many different perspectives and diversity of different thoughts they could come up with. So I'm really amazed by I'm really amazed by all of the presentation of the finalists. So I can't wait to see what they can accomplish after a few years, and maybe they're going to make some big improvement to AI technology, as well as making some big accomplishment into our society. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for those wonderful words and for your contributions, Andrew. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Well, next year's, I'd like to just spend a couple of minutes now announcing next year's GYC challenge, and it will be regarding another major issue that is affecting the world, that's of paramount importance for humanity, and that is climate change. The students today, for their contributions, will all receive a copy of this wonderful book. It's a best-selling book by Katherine Hayhoe, Saving Us, A Climate Scientist's Case for Hope and Healing in a Divided World. So next year's topic will be climate change. I can't wait to hear some other great contributions by our young people on how to address this very impactful matter that we're all dealing with. I think of young Greta Thunberg and all that she has done regarding climate change. So it'll be very fascinating to hear our next year's students and how they tackle and propose solutions for climate change. In terms of the finalization for next year's contest, check the GYC website. Details will be forthcoming probably in April. So please check in April to get more information regarding next year's final GYC. So in terms of concluding remarks, we're just waiting for the tabulations here. Mr. George Vanderker, would you like to say anything as we conclude, sir? I know you're never at a loss for words, so. I would ask Miss Vieira to say a few words too, but you don't have a microphone, right? You don't have a microphone, no. Okay.
Well, I think we have to get rid of the echo again. The reason for the echo is that I am live in the room where all this is happening. And so we have it on a large screen, and which is being filmed at the same time. So whenever I speak, they have to rush over and turn the sound off from the big screen. But I would say, wow, I can't believe what I've heard. The maturity and the knowledge of these young people. We covered everything. We've covered racism. We've covered medicine, art, business, home assists, music, climate, you name it. And it was all through the lens of AI. So the creativity was outstanding. What really impressed me is that most of these students are not native English speakers. and they spoke English better than a lot of us. So it's very impressive. I really enjoyed it, and looking forward to next year, where climate change is also one of these topics, and wow, it can, it applies to almost everything in our lives. And that's the whole purpose of what we're doing, is that we want young people to reflect on the things that are really going to mean a lot to the future of their lives and the lives of society. And they're going to be the leaders. So they're going to be the ones that are going to have to make the decisions, and are also going to be the scientists and the social workers, who are going to actually produce, so hopefully, solutions to all these dilemmas that face us. Yeah. So it was great. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Yes, it was. As I mentioned in my class in leadership, that these young people are the future leaders. And, I think it should be, if I can just boost the particular course that I teach, and that is in business leadership, but it's not just business leadership, it's leadership in general. And I always tell my students that everything they learn in the course is not just applicable to business, but it's applicable to politics, it's applicable to life in general. And I really think it should be a mandatory course, not because I teach it, but because I think it's so essential that young people be taught principles of leadership. And so I also share George's sentiments that today's group of young peoples are just astounding. Like, it never ceases to amaze me at how great these young minds are. And I think that we do have a great future. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that, unlike some of the negative prognosticators, like whose names I mentioned earlier, who are issuing dire, catastrophic consequences to AI, I didn't get that vibe from the young people today, and I'm really glad for that, because I'm an incorrigible optimist myself, and I do believe that we have more than the ability to make AI something extremely beneficial for mankind. So I don't subscribe to the dire consequences that some proponents out there of catastrophe subscribe to. I don't do that, and I'm so happy to hear that our young people that presented today also do not subscribe to that. So it's really great to hear that. Okay, at this time, we're doing some tabulations. We're just going to have to wait a couple more minutes, but we're almost ready to make the final presentations.
If I may, Ralph?
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, this is Christine. And I would just like to thank the judges for all their time and support of the GYC. And I absolutely enjoyed the communication. And the finalists, it's a pleasure to be able to be involved with GYC and to have the honor of reading all your thoughts, all your ideas. I certainly did not have this kind of depth of knowledge at my age, in high school. So it's wonderful to see that I wouldn't call younger generation, I'm still very young too, but the youngsters to have such level of care for our humanity and interest in this very interesting but difficult topic. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you, Christine, for all your efforts and work that went into this. Christine was putting a lot of time and effort into making this a success, so thank you. Yes, us older folks can remember Encyclopedia Britannicas, and I always say this to my students. It's just amazes me how you can Google something and immediately have it come up. Like, it's just, we take it for granted, but those of us that had to trudge to the library, it's really something. And I think I like what one of the students said about we can't lose sight of can't just be too dependent on it and lose sight of some of the traditional things that have made us great as a species. And one of my pet peeves is reading. And I think we cannot lose the love of reading in our young people, because I think that's essential. And I think we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think one of them said that we can't lose sight of how to make calculations ourselves and be so reliant upon technology. Even human communication, of course, right? Like we still have to, live in communicating communities. We can't just be, online with people in foreign countries, which is a great thing, but at the same time, not have that human aspect in our own communities, right? So we're smart. As a species, we're smart. I think the message I got today was that there's optimism to be had. And Ernest Shackleton, the great explorer who went to the first person to reach the South Pole, said that optimism is true moral courage. So I think that as a species, that's the secret. I don't have a lot of use for negative thinking. I tell this to my students in leadership. It's not that we're naive, but by no means do I advocate being naive. It's a question of being positive, being optimistic, and there's enough bad negative news in the world, but we can overcome that, and with positive energy and thoughts and our intelligence as a species. And I think that if we do that, if we harness the power of AI, we could have a future that's almost unimaginable in its beauty. So that should be the goal. That should be the goal. That should be the goal. So
Professor Slaughter, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, Professor, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I want to recognize the youth here. Some of you as young as 13, 14 years old. It's okay for you guys to be naive. You know, you can't have read everything. You can't have learned everything. And I will tell you that as someone who teaches graduate students in this stuff, you know, reading your essays was reading a bunch of fairly early stage ideas, okay? And that's not a bad thing. You had some big ideas in there, but a lot of you treated AI as very simplistic, or you sometimes even anthropomorphized AI, which means you sort of treated it like it was AI, it was going to do something, you know, going to go dive into the ocean. You know, AI is it's a bunch of approaches that are named, and the names can be a problem when you call something one thing, right? And I want to encourage you to read. I want to encourage you to look more into this stuff. You've seen some examples. The age that you are in right now is the age of short sound bites, internet memes, YouTube videos, never more than usually 3 minutes. And I want to encourage you to get the book, to read the book, to understand what is machine learning. Exactly how does that work? What is computer vision? How does that actually work, computer vision? Think about some of the big issues that you're naming. A lot of you had very dichotomizing worldviews. AI is bad and good. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, keep going with your thinking. It's more nuanced than that. Okay, and so you're at the beginning. I really applaud what you've done. I applaud that your interest, and those of you who took on the artistic way of looking at it. That's really neat because it's a whole different way of thinking and talking about these issues. But at the beginning, you have all but nothing but opportunity to keep going and to learn. And right now, I imagine you're all trying to think of what you're going to kind of do for a career and what directions you want to go. These kind of explorations can really help you find interesting pathways. That's why I asked about the iceberg earlier, because, you know, for every neat little thing, there's a huge collection of people doing interesting work. But thank you again. Thanks for the opportunity to be a judge.
Thank you, Professor Slaughter. We really appreciate your contributions and your thoughts. Yeah, and along those lines, perhaps one of the things I always ask my students at the beginning of any term, and that is, what is the purpose of education? And Einstein's answer to that was, the purpose of education is learning how to think. And it's not just memorization and regurgitation, but learning how to think. And, you know, as much as AI is definitely helping us along those lines, but we can't forget that we ourselves as humans have to learn how to think. And that's the entire purpose of education, is learning how to think. And Professor Slaughter mentioned, yeah, you know, we live in an age of short sound bites and short readings. I grew up, again, pre-internet age, where our television didn't even work most of the time. I grew up in a rural community, and I had a love of reading from the first moment I learned how to read. And I would read, you know, several books a week from the library because there really wasn't anything else to do. There was no internet to distract me. So we can't get away from that. We got to combine both, right? Let's combine both. Yes, absolutely. AI is going to do phenomenal things for us, but we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to still use our own intelligence and learn how to think ourselves as a species, right? So we can't digress as a species while AI progresses, right? So it's a challenge. It's exciting, and it's a great future. I hope, I pray, and I'm sure with optimism it can materialize. Any further comments? Anyone want to make any further comments? Any of the judges like to say anything at this point? I think we're getting close to a final tabulation here. Just wait a moment.
Professor Leslie Walton would like to say something, Professor? Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo what Jim, Professor Slaughter had to say there, which is that, and what I heard some of you say in these really impressive presentations, it was a wonderful way for me to spend a Friday morning. I heard a lot of you talking about seeking a better understanding at what I call AI literacy. You know, we think about things like digital literacy and how we understand how we use computers and how we communicate through technology. So I think about AI literacy in the same way, except that it's not so well known or well thought about yet, because AI is new. But understanding the underlying technology, what kind of data is being gathered, because data will be being gathered if it's using artificial intelligence in some way. So understanding the technology to a degree, and there's some countries like Sweden where they're actually making sure their entire population has access to courses that help them develop AI literacy, from seniors to young people, so that we can better understand the technology we're using. So I just wanted to echo what Jim was saying. Is we're at the beginning here. You have such a great opportunity to really delve into the implications of artificial intelligence and understand where to go from here. Because it's although it's not new, as we know, 1956 became a term. It's evolving, and it's evolving rapidly now. So I'm so happy and thankful that to be invited to be part of this, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor, so much, Professor Wilton, for coming and sharing your thoughts and for being a judge. We really appreciate it. We thank you so much.
Paul, would you like to say something, sir?
Okay, so first of all, thanks for all judges. Oh, so is this echo? Okay, just continue. And so I just realized I had a chance to, so just waiting for 1 second, there's echo. I'm very lucky I have a chance to take course from Professor Leslie on AI and education. I realized AI technology developed very, very fast. The data, the computing speed is so fast. So actually 20 years ago, my IC is AI for my master degree. But the recent 5 years developed very fast. Technology, data, and computing. So I realized the education is kind of behind. So all of our participants today, they are kind of pioneers in AI, so just continue studying AI. So for me, because I realize AI education is behind, especially for high school. So right now I put more time to work on want to create a curriculum, AI education curriculum. Before I taught computer science in high school. So right now I just put more time to develop a curriculum for AI based on Ontario education curriculum guidelines. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And we'll just wait a moment here to get our final tabulations. They're furiously preparing them as we wait.
They need some AI.
Yes. Oh, yes. Which campus do you teach at, Professor Loda? The Mississauga or the downtown?
No, I'm here at St. George. I work in education with Leslie as a collaborator. She used to be here at OISE in St. George, but moved to York last year. So I run a research group that looks at new ways of learning with technology, including a bit of AI.
Excellent. Very good. Yeah, there was an interesting book written by, I'm pretty sure he's a Nobel laureate Roger Penrose, the Emperor's New Mind. Have you read it? No. He brings in the interesting discussion of Gödel's incompleteness theorem, which, along with Einstein's theory of relativity and Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, is considered one of the three great intellectual accomplishments of the 20th century. But Gödel's incompleteness theorem, he argues that that basically negates AI becoming self-aware, like we as humans. So it's always neat to hear an opposing view from a Nobel laureate, not just some guy on the internet who's using a very advanced argument in Gödel's incompleteness theorem to sort of counter what the Elon Musks of the world are saying. So it's fascinating.
But whatever you do, don't write it down, right? So as soon as we make a law that says we have to watch out if the robots ever look like they're getting consciousness, that's gonna be the first thing the robots read. They're gonna say like, okay, whatever we do, because they're gonna be better at gaming than we are, right? So whatever we do, we have to remember that they're gonna be watching for this.
Yes.
So whatever we should let's just keep it, out of their consciousness.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely. Yes. See all our finalists up on the big screen. Feel like we're at the Academy Awards now, getting ready to present the Oscars.
And this is a commercial break while everyone take a rest.
Christine will now sing a song for us, Christine.
Oh, I used to play piano, but it's downstairs. Cannot do that. Cannot help you. And thank you, everyone, for your patience. And they are working really, really hard.
Diligently. Yes,
yes,
they're diligently working. Absolutely.
I wouldn't mind just saying that I'd like to acknowledge the efforts of everyone who's organized this amazing event. I think that it's my first time being involved, and it's very well organized. It's been a privilege to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've just been given a thumbs up signal, so I think we're very close to a presentation. So as soon as I'm given the information, it'll be my honor to present. We will start with the third place finalist, and then go to the second, and then we will go on from there.
Here we go.
Okay, so our third place winners today. Okay. Samantha Zong, congratulations. You will receive a certificate of distinction. Congratulations, Samantha. Yes, another third place winner today, and will also receive a certificate of distinction, Amy Zong. Congratulations, Amy. Well done. Our next third place winner is Jimin So. Congratulations, Jimin, on your excellent efforts. Our next third place finalist is Mohammed Jaffer. Congratulations, Mohammed, and you will receive a certificate of distinction. Xin Xin Guan, you also have received a certificate of distinction for your third place finish in this contest. Fatime Bakhtari, you also will receive a certificate of distinction for your third place finish in this contest. Congratulations. Elizabeth Long, you also will be receiving a third place certificate of distinction. Congratulations, Elizabeth. And Xiaozun Zhu, you also will be receiving a certificate of distinction as a third place finalist. Congratulations. And Kevin Gu, you also will be receiving a third place winner certificate for your contribution today. Congratulations, Kevin. And Yuzhuan Wang, you also will be receiving a third place certificate for your contributions today. Thank you very much. Congratulations. And now we move on to our second place winners. It's my pleasure to announce the second place winners. Our first second place winner is Helena Zhu. Congratulations, Helena, on your second place finish. Congratulations. And I might add that whether you got a second or a third, you're amongst the 16 worldwide finalists. So really, second and third is just phenomenal. I mean, just to be here alone is phenomenal. So congratulations. Another second place winner is Michael Zhang. Congratulations, Michael. Another second place winner is Anita Chang. Congratulations, Anita. You'll receive a certificate of distinction. Another certificate of distinction for the second place finish will go to Zainab Hussein. Congratulations, Zainab. Derek Ma, you also will be receiving a certificate of distinction as a second place winner. Congratulations, Derek. And now it is my great privilege and honor to present you the first place winner of the 2022 GYC contest, the Global Youth Challenge. The winner is, drum roll, Grace Liu. Congratulations, Grace, for this incredible achievement. Let's give Grace a big round of applause.
Virtually.
Well done, Grace. That's an awesome achievement.
Thank you so much. This is such an amazing honor. I couldn't believe it because, oh my gosh, there were so many amazing presentations that I saw and such creative views. Oh, so I'm sorry. I'm so excited right now. Just wow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And you should be excited for doing such a great job. Congratulations. Wonderful. That's just wonderful. And also a special mention, the Special Mention Award. Okay. That will also go to Wuling Zhu, our young 11-year-old contestant here. So a special mention award will go to you, and we hope to see you in the future in this global challenge. Congratulations, Wuling. Excellent. At this point, I think we have concluded the GYC. Oh, wait a second. No, I've gone too soon. We have the Best Popularity Award, which of course the audience voted upon. Okay, so this is another great achievement for this person. So it's my pleasure to award the Best Popularity Award to, drum roll please, Zainab Hussein. Congratulations, Zainab, for achieving this Best Popularity Award. Well done, Zainab. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Okay, so at this point, we shall, any further comments? I'm not sure what else needs to be said or stated. Does anyone need anything else addressed? So I think, did you want the professors to stay around for a couple of minutes just to answer some questions, I believe, if the professors could do that. But I want to thank everyone for coming to this year's event. It's been my pleasure to host it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Oh, I think we might have something here. Yes, the first place. Yes. So our first place winner will also be asked to stay behind for a short interview as well. Okay, so please don't